Recording is started.
It looked like it stopped raining.
Beep, beep, ribby, ribby.
God.
Beep, beep.
Beep, beep, ribby, ribby.
All right.
It's a 30 Rock joke where Jack Donaghy he's like trying to write a joke for the show, and he's like starting with the punchline. He's like, beep, beep, ribby, ribby. Is that anything?
45?
Yeah, 45 is good.
Like how it doesn't do anything for Andre except make his eyes kind of bulge when there was a clap.
You know, that's how frogs clap.
Yep. They're trying to catch flies, but the sound of my eyelids clapping keeps alerting the guards.
I knew where that was going as soon as you started saying it. Okay.
Oh man, now I just want to watch that video of David Hayter saying it.
It's really good.
All right. 129, is that what we're at? Okay.
Hell yeah, it is.
Hello, and welcome to episode 129 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on July 11th, 2020. I'm your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite insect reproductive cycle. I am joined today by Alex.
I'm woefully uneducated on insect reproduction.
Also joining us, Pat.
Have I got the show for you? Also, it's mantises. It's mantises.
Just because they killed a male.
Manti?
Yes.
Okay. All lives matter, Pat.
Oh my god.
Oh, God. What a way to start this show.
Really great.
man.
I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'm just going to leave the call.
And Allyson.
Yeah, I don't know if I have anywhere to go after that.
Starting with the showstopper.
If biologically your reproductive system is for the male to get its head bitten off during intercourse, then I would say that all of those mantis lives matter appropriately to which they've evolved.
Not all manti. All right. Well, after such a delightful start, do want to say, while things have been quiet this week on the sexual assault allegation front, we still stand with all the people who are coming forward with all their stories and the consequences that are being doled out, however slowly they may be, and want people to keep feeling empowered to come forward with that stuff. We're also glad that there hasn't been anything like super awful this week.
It's also important to note that people are still protesting around at least the U.S.
Yes,
for against police brutality, and I know, like here in Seattle, on the one hand, city council passed a veto-proof bill to defund the police department by 50%. On the other hand, the police are picking up journalists and arresting them and holding them without any real charges, just because they don't like them. So, as much as there are victories taking place around the country, there's also backlash from police and city forces. So obviously we're there with people fighting for that stuff too.
Yep. And stay inside. Wear a damn mask.
God, of course, yeah.
You know what's inside?
This podcast
and video games.
That too,
yeah.
Which we're going to talk about.
Hey, you'll have so many hours of this podcast to listen to if you want to listen to the whole back catalog, which I don't know why you would, but if you want to, it's there.
If you want to see our friendship develop in real time.
That's true. That's true. If you want to see us become better friends, then you can listen from the start.
Start with the 2017 Game of the Year podcast, which is 7 hours long?
Oh God,
Something like that, yeah.
sign up for our Patreon and you can get access to the chat logs.
We don't have a Patreon
no,
for what it's
no.
worth. In case
not
anyone
sign up
starts
for
to
that.
Google that.
Oh
We
God.
do not have a Patreon, and we would never release our chat logs.
No.
No, our chat logs
It
are
would just be
extremely
boring,
stupid.
honestly. If you like, we're just reading them. Like,
Wake up with 200 messages going, okay, what the fuck is this?
Now, that's the thing. If we ever started a Patreon that we could do is dramatic readings of specific conversations.
Yeah.
oh, that's actually a good idea, guys. Like, this is a reason to review us on things,
Yeah.
so that we know, hey, if there's a Patreon, which if we ever do a Patreon, then we can do those dramatic readings. So
Yeah, such as at podchaser.com/Gaming Fyx.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, it's been a while since we talked games on this show. Like
Yes, it
games
has.
we're playing, games that we're playing. Because shit's been bad.
Yep.
It doesn't mean we haven't been playing games. We just haven't had time to talk about them on the show.
Also doesn't mean stuff has stopped being bad, but it's
No.
been
No,
less
yeah, but-
less bad comparatively.
This week
Or-
we're safe.
Or at least the same bad, so there's not new bad.
True.
Yeah.
True. That's a better way to put it.
There's not new ridiculous shit to talk about. We're still reeling from the previous shit.
Yeah.
We're in the, like, you got the waves, and we're in like the bottom of the waves. So like, I'm sure some come next week.
Was it
Anyway.
Shroth or whatever.
I don't know. This voice mod thing has an intelligible slider.
Don't.
no,
I
Don't.
haven't
So,
paid for
okay,
it, so I can't mess with it. But
for context, Andre's been using a voice
don't know what-
modulator
I don't know
before
what
the
you're talking about.
podcast,
And
and
also,
then also, yeah,
he's
Face
currently a frog.
in our
Via face
Zoom.
rig.
Yeah. So
hey, had to buy something on the Steam sale.
Anyways,
I bought Greedfall to try that again on PC. You bought Frog software.
Oh fuck! Oh wait, no, I've got Frog Fractions 2 via that Itch.io bundle, itch.io, Itch.io, whatever.
yeah.
Okay, Glittermint and Grove.
Glittermint and
baby.
Glove, yeah. The game is
I actually
alright.
need to play that because
I never finished it.
Did you import your Mass Effect 2 save?
I did.
I like the idea of Frog Fractions a lot more than I like Frog Fractions, but I respect Frog Fractions.
I like telling people about Frog
Yes.
Fractions.
Yeah, I like telling people, okay, have you heard of Frog Fractions? And if that's the answer is no, then you go, okay, great, here's Frog Fractions,
Yeah.
please play it.
Uh,
Like,
And
I can't
and
remember the
then-
creator's name, but they're working on porting it to Steam because Flash games are just going to be
oh, that's right.
gone at the end of the year, basically.
what's his name? It's Twin Beard Jim.
Jim Storm Dance? That's not his real name, is it?
I doubt it's his real
Can't
name. It might
remember,
be
but-
his assumed name.
But I know
can't remember
it's
either, but-
it's Twin Beard for
Yeah,
sure.
Twin
I just can't
Beard
remember
is the
his name.
developer.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a
Jim
whole,
Crawford. Jim
Oh
Crawford.
yeah,
Crawford,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
They did a
Anyways,
whole ARG before Frog Fractions 2 where people were like showing
That
up
was
in the
fun to
middle of the
follow.
street and he was there and then he got abducted.
Well, it was fun to follow everybody being like, wait, is this Frog Fractions 2? Is this Frog Fractions 2?
I mean,
And nobody quite knowing for sure.
didn't he say that like the next one you probably know about will be Frog Fractions 4 because Frog Fractions 3 is going to just like come out and you're never going to figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah, but you know, who knows what he's actually, if that's the truth. or not.
I think if I trust anyone to follow through on that promise,
It would be
him.
very good if that happened. It would be very good.
It would be,
if that
yeah, it would
happened.
be extremely good if like one day we're like, wait, that's Frog Fractions 4 and just start like going
Well,
weird.
There's so much
that's-
garbage you could hide Frog Fractions 3 in on the Steam store. that
Oh,
they
for
could
sure.
Totally exist and none
on
of
the
them.
consoles too. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
I've
basically
looked at
the video game equivalent of painting 3 hogs with 1, 2, and 4, and then releasing them into your high school.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of doing Jack Shot Mark II every night, so people come back hoping to see Jack Shot Mark One.
Also, if
I hate
someone-
that reference, by the way.
yeah, same. I'm just choosing
Not
to
that I
ignore it.
understand it.
But if someone had never played Frog Fractions, I would recommend to them Frog Fractions and then Bubsy 3D.
Okay. Yeah. Bubsy 3D.
Bubsy
Bubsy
3D,
goes to the
Bubsy
James
goes to
Turrell
James-
retrospective.
Exactly.
You know,
The
I've
only
actually
Bubsy
been to a
3D that
Games Trail
matters.
retrospective.
But yeah,
did
if
it
you're
have
somehow
did it have an
listening
Applebee's?
to a gaming
No.
if you're somehow listening to a gaming podcast and you don't know what Frog Fractions is, go play Frog Fractions.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's yeah.
But
You
get
learn a
someone to
lot about
send-
math.
Get someone to send you a link to Frog Fractions. Don't Google Frog Fractions.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Or wish listed on Steam.
Yeah.
But I bet the Steam page will you know what? No, I bet it'll be perfect. Like it won't spoil anything.
No, it'll be
because
perfect,
yeah.
It'll say that it's a counting game for kids and it'll be like $2.99 and it'll make perfect sense.
I mean, you guys
I
are
think it'll
saying
be
this
free,
like it is an
but-
accounting
Or
game
free,
for kids. Like it doesn't just teach you math because that's what it is.
Yeah. That's actually my favorite part of playing
very good
that
game.
is the part where it's an 80s educational game.
Like an
Which is all that
MECC.
it is.
Shit.
People who are listening who have not played it.
What was y'all's favorite MECC game?
We have MECC. What's that?
The educational games. I would say like Dino Park
okay.
Tycoon was pretty good. Like Number
I've played a lot of
Munchers.
Just
Zumbinis.
to look up the list. I mean, it's probably.
Zucchinis. Well,
I don't mean to
Kiss.
be basic or anything,
Trouble.
but I liked Oregon Trail a lot.
Yeah, sure.
I
like-
lived
No,
Oregon
I mean, it's
Trail.
like-
I lived Oregon Trail.
You did live in
On my
Oregon.
way to school every day.
I
I
like.
mean, it's basic, but it's good game. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
like
think it holds up still.
I like
Yeah.
Yukon Trail because Yukon Trail had visuals.
Yeah, the Yukon Trail is good, and actually, I guess I never played Amazon Trail. They didn't put it out, but there was an Africa Trail at one point where you rode a bicycle through Africa. That was kind of cool because it was like
Sounds awesome.
modern day Africa, and it was trying to like. It could have been really, really problematic. I don't remember it well enough, but at the time, it felt like they were trying to teach you about like what it's like to live in Africa and like to challenge some of the stereotypes about
It's cool.
Africa from like, you know, movies
like-
and shit that you
like-
would see in the 90s.
It's like, here, check out Nairobi. It's a modern city that kicks ass.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that was the point. Was like you would get there on your bicycle and it would be like, just go to the grocery store and buy some bottled water and some food.
Yep. Anyways, those aren't games we've been playing.
I
Maybe we should be. but-
Maybe they.
I should
maybe
play
play
they-
a week
African
where we
Trail
all
again and
just
see
played
if that's true
educational
or if it
games.
sucks. Anyway,
Okay. Well, a game that kind of sucks, but is also amazing. Trackmania.
hell yes.
That game does not suck. Its
That game-
interface sucks.
The things
game-
around it.
The game
suck.
does not suck. I
Yeah.
don't know. Now that I've paid for the appropriate
the part where
access
you
tier.
play it, the part where you play it is very good.
Yes.
Everything else is a mess.
It's all
That's
a
part of the
mess.
charm.
But once you figure it out, I don't know.
It's
You're
your
talking
mess.
and you're talking to someone who plays games where like you spend roughly 3 hours in configuration windows before you start playing them to get the perfect like settings. So in that way, you know, once you're there, it's great. The skin creator is a nightmare. That's the only thing that I'm upset
There's-
about at this point.
There's a few nightmares in there.
Yeah, but I've gotten over the other nightmares so far.
Yeah, it should be noted. Well, actually, no. Question for Pat and Andre, because I know Allyson, you haven't been playing it. But what's y'all's experience with previous Trackmanias?
I played a lot of Trackmania 2 Stadium. And some of the new one on consoles, whatever. Trackmania
Turbo?
Nation.
I gotta
Turbo,
look at what Trackmania. I need to remind myself like the order they came out in because I've been playing Trackmania for almost my entire life, like as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I
Not
played
almost my entire life, but
I played a lot of Trackmania 1. Just like Stadium, whenever that came out, basically.
I played a lot of Trackmania 1. I played quite a bit of Trackmania Sunrise.
Oh yeah.
I played a small amount of Trackmania Nations. Then I played a shitload of Trackmania United.
Yep.
Like
Same.
a lot of that and a lot of Forever.
Yep.
Yeah,
played a
their
lot of
names are
games.
just so goddamn
I got
annoying.
2 Canyon and 2 Stadium. Those two I played a ton of.
I played the 2 of those to death, and then I played a little bit of Valley, and then I never touched Lagoon.
I didn't even know. Oh yeah, I forgot about Lagoon.
And then I never played Turbo. I never even really looked at Turbo. So this is my first time playing it since I guess like 2013ish when Valley came out. Because Lagoon didn't come out until way after. It didn't come out until after Trackmania Turbo.
I did play Turbo, and actually, surprisingly, Turbo had a good kind of like single player mode, which is weird. But it like had this whole campaign.
That was that was kind of its thing, right? Like it didn't have the same robust server tools that.
Yeah, because
it
was a console game.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, but like it's like single player mode was actually pretty good. But
I mean, Nadeo makes good tracks, so like that they. Yeah, so I think their the single player stuff in the new one is, I mean, I played all those tracks before I got into the playing online more.
Yeah, same. Sorry, so go for it, Allyson.
This is kind of a new thought, but as somebody who hasn't played any Trackmania games, what would you guys say sets it apart as a game?
So it's like
that's a good question.
It's like weirdly meditative. It's you're not obsessing about what place you're coming in a race. You're not obsessing over like much other than kind of like reading the track and just kind of getting into this zen state of trying to get the best time you can in like a loop.
Yeah, like, well, and that's the structurally, if you're playing it solo, then obviously you're just freely restarting whatever track you want as much as you want. But when you're playing on a server, there's a timer, so it's like you load into a new map. Usually it's a community created map because there's a lot of track building tools. What I realized what it was last night when I was playing it was it is like Mario Maker, but it is for it's like Mario Maker but racing games. And it's Mario Maker
a dubstep share over your Mario Maker level.
Then there's the shared aspect of it where you're playing with a group at the same time.
Yeah, it's also kind of like your dream Hot Wheels game where like you're doing loops and like going on riding the walls and stuff. So like
it is like if people are talking about more realistic racers, this is like the
extreme end of the arcade.
Yeah. But the handling is good. Like the handling of the car is very good. Like you're still having to break into corners and stuff. Like it feels somewhat realistic, but it also feels extremely arcadey.
It's realistic in that it's not a kart racer, sort of like where you don't just hold accelerate the whole time.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it is completely off the walls, bonkers.
Some levels you do.
Well, yes, it depends on how the level's designed for sure.
It's. I love Trackmania, like unequivocally.
It's very good.
Like and this is a really good Trackmania. Like I think
it's nice that they didn't break up all the different components like they did with like I played Trackmania 2 Stadium, and that's like you've got dirt and street, and that's basically it. But then they put out like Valley or Canyon and like Lagoon, and they had all these other tiles that had like different handling components.
Because
if you didn't own those other games, so it's nice to have that just kind of all in one game.
Yeah, like I don't even know how to describe it. It's
all F1 cars driving at insane speeds on ridiculous tracks.
Yeah, it does have a really great sense of speed. But
absolutely.
Like it does do weird stuff. Like the new tracks I've been playing have been really creative because they are intermingling all the new track types. So previously, like if you ever played Stadium, I don't know about you guys, but like when I was playing Stadium, whenever we would get into a new map, you just kind of learned how to sight read it. Like you would just kind of look for these tells you like, oh, I recognize this piece, I recognize that piece, and it's just like, okay, this is probably going to end up over here. So like, and then you're able to make it through the first time around, and it's awesome. But with this one, with all the new pieces, it's like I have no idea what's coming. Oh wait, I do know what's coming, but now it's ice, and I'm flying like up into the walls.
Yeah. So the fact that they have
awesome.
like ice and dirt in the same, you can transition between them, and grass, you can transition between them, is really, really cool. And it leads to some really interesting track designs, and it leads to interesting situations where like if you take it for like not just getting from the beginning to the end of the track, but also for ways to improve your time. Because I have seen tracks where there's like a turn, and if you're in the specific narrow band, then you're driving on street. and maybe that's the fastest, but if you cut the corner, you slide across the ice, and then if you catch the street the right way on the edge of the slide, then maybe that would be faster than taking the cement, like the concrete track. So there's a lot of interesting ways that people are combining those things. And I also love one of the things that is my favorite thing about Trackmania. I was playing on the Giant Bomb Unofficial Classic room last night.
Oh, same. And we were probably in the same room together.
Probably. Were you playing when there was that awful map that had the like rainbow road? It was, my partner described it as like, oh, is it like Rainbow Road bullshit? It's not like Rainbow Road, but you had to like jump it was like you started and then you flew up in the air and had to land on one platform and then turn left and then go across another gap.
Yes.
That track sucks.
Oh yeah. It's not that it sucks. It's really hard.
But it's really hard and it's not intuitive, and it's like, it's not that it's poorly designed. It sucks to play. I'm sure for some people it's awesome, but what was great is in the chat, everyone was like, fuck this track. This is awful. And so like, even though we were kind of having a bad time with the track, everyone could commiserate together and still be listening to a dubstep remix of the Imperial March. So
yep. We were definitely at the same time.
You might be convincing me.
Like
you really should play it, Allyson. I think you should. I think Trackmania is a game that I would literally recommend to everyone. Like I can't think of a person that wouldn't find something in it if you can get over the bad parts, which is the menus basically.
Yeah,
the payment scheme and the pricing explanation.
It is weird, but like that's the thing we're kind of not talking about is how fucking great it is in the multiplayer. Like that's always been my favorite part from the old ones to this current one is going into a server such as the Giant Bomb Unofficial Classic, and it just has the stupidest playlist of music, which is just like the Dayman dubstep is still one of my favorites.
There was the other night it was
E.T. by Katy Perry.
We listened to an Adele Set Fire to the Rain dubstep remix.
Yeah, that one's really good.
About 15 minutes.
I love that.
And then it switched over to an All About That Bass dubstep remix, which was, I hate it.
And don't forget the Jurassic Park one.
Yes.
Yeah.
X-Files. Yeah.
Like it's that kind
Weezer.
of stuff. And and it's
Weezer cross Metallica.
Oh my God. It's just so dumb, but it's just so good.
Has someone put Star Wars Metallica in this new game?
Not that I've seen.
Okay.
There were moments in the past. I mean, this isn't a moment with this game, but and I don't know that it would be, but I remember back on, I think it was Canyon, a time when on a Giant Bomb stream, a bunch of people were playing and everyone decided, and Cher was playing on repeat. And a bunch of people decided to try to just drive off the map. Yep. And so everyone just chose a direction and drove that way. And so you were just driving through the desert for like a solid 20 minutes while Cher played on repeat. Yeah. And it's weird, but it's just but what's great is then when you want to play the game for real and actually try to compete and improve your time, there's a really solid racing game there that is
right. It's like really it's both. You can mess around and it's a solid game. It's not like excluding one for the other. Yeah, like
these tracks are built on tiles that are basically floating in the air above some environment. You can jump off of the track if you want and just drive in that environment for as long as you want. You're just not going to mark a time. So there's nothing stopping you other than trying to get good times.
And even if you get a track that's like outside of your skill level or whatever, in 5 minutes, it's going to rotate to something new. So
and that's the awesome thing is like, because a lot of these tracks are like a good track is between 20 and 30 seconds long. And then what you're doing is you're replaying it to just learn the lines and just do it better and better and get the best time.
I would agree with you. I'm not sure whoever curates tracks for the Giant Bomb Unofficial Classic server agrees with you.
So I think what's happening there specifically, which needs to be kind of fixed, is that you can only rate a track once you have finished it. So
I don't even know how to rate the track once you have finished it.
Yeah, me neither. I've tried, but like, so what's happening is that really good players like are coming on and rating the really hard tracks like 5 stars, and then those are marked as being enjoyed by the community, so they get played in the playlist more often.
And stuff like the rating system, I don't think that's built into the interface.
No.
That's like bolted on, like third-party programs.
That's my favorite part of showing people Trackmania is when they see the interface with just bullshit everywhere.
Yes.
There's a leader, like 7 different leaderboards just around the screen.
It's so good.
The first night when I got on I got on the first day it came out on, I think it was the first day it came out on the unofficial classic room. They're not really called servers now, they're called rooms. And it looked like really, really benign. Like there wasn't all that bullshit on it because they hadn't added it yet. And I was like, wow, this is a lean. And then 2 days ago I got on and it was, I'll say, fixed. And so now it looks like garbage while you're waiting for the map to start.
That's why I felt weird in Trackmania Turbo, because it didn't have all the bullshit.
It really needs all of that to be functional, in my opinion.
But yeah, so Allyson, what else do you want to know about Trackmania? Because like, you got 3 veterans here apparently.
I don't know if I have any other questions. I guess that was the big one. You can
make your car into Sonic. Or like Eggman.
So unfortunately, finding skins for this one is one of the ass parts.
It is.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more will pop up, but it's weird.
You hit the download button, then like you said, Pat, I was like, there's no way he's right. And then what it does is it pops you out to your browser and downloads a zip.
So first you have to first you have to join a club to see that club's. Well, I don't know if you have to join it, but
prerequisite, you have to get the version that allows you to join a club.
Well, right.
Which is $30, $40
for a year. It's $30 for a year, or $60 for 3 years, which is not that bad.
Yeah.
I would say if you haven't played Trackmania before, you are fine to get the $10 version. Hell, you're fine to install the free one, see if you like the way the car handles, and then get the $10 version. The $10 version will allow you to play in live rooms, which is like the Giant Bomb Unofficial Classic that we're talking about as a live room. It does not let you join clubs or change your skin on your car. So you're stuck with your country's flag as your car skin. Which,
can you upgrade it later? Or
yes. Well, so what happens, this is going to sound confusing, and I had to work it over. I had to turn it over in my brain like 4 times before I understood. So yesterday I realized that I needed the club level, which is $30 for a year. If you purchase the club level and you're already a standard level person, it converts a third of your remaining time at the standard level into club level access time. Which makes sense
because it's a third of the price.
Because it's a third of the price. Yes. For a minute I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? I had to think about it for a little bit before I did it. But yeah, so you can upgrade. You don't get a discount, but you get additional time.
Okay, that's not terrible.
That seems reasonable to me. Actually.
It's fine. And really, anyone who is upset about a $30 a year price for Trackmania, I don't think maybe it's for you, because like it is definitely like the kind of game that you want to play for a long time, and they needed to come up with some kind of 95% of the content that you're going to end up playing if you play a significant amount of Trackmania will be developed by community members.
Yes.
And for the game to continue to exist, the developers have to make some kind of money. And in the past, they've just put the game out and not continued to charge for it. So it's like,
well, kind of, because they put the game out, then they put out Valley, then they put out Stadium, then they put out Canyon.
And the assumption here, what they're claiming, from what I've heard, is that every 4 months, like basically seasonally, they'll roll out some new Nadeo made maps as well as new content for.
Isn't there supposed to be like a daily thing, like a daily map?
There is a daily map, but I think they pull that from community maps.
Yeah, it's a daily featured map. It can be community. Yeah.
So anyway, every 4 months, for like a few dollars a month, if you stretch it out, you're getting a game that is having content added to it pretty regularly. So I don't feel bad about it at all from a cost perspective. I think it's totally worth it.
I just wish they were more upfront and clear and articulated what the difference between the tiers was.
That is definitely frustrating.
It is
and then,
very
like,
poorly.
What am I doing? Okay, I think I can do the 10. No, I need the 30. Damn it!
It doesn't feel poorly messaged because they're trying to trick you into spending more money. To me, it just feels like it's just poorly explained.
Yeah, no, yeah, it just 100%
explained.
It just feels bad.
Yeah, once you get it, it's totally fine. But
so with that aside, to get like new skins for cars, you have the $30 version, and then you have to click into a club. I don't remember if you have to join it or not, or I haven't really tried either way.
I only tried it while joining. Sorry. Please continue.
And then you go into the club's uploaded skins. For example, I joined the Giant Bomb Club. Go into the Giant Bomb skins. They have several different skins that you can pick from that were made by members of that community. If you look at the like grid view of skins and then hit the download button, it pops a browser window and then downloads a zip file. And it does not tell you where to put that zip file. And it is not, you would think, as someone who has modded a lot of video games, I was like, oh, well, surely it's just a folder in my documents that says like Trackmania cars. Yeah. However, there is a folder in your documents called Trackmania, but it's broken out into completely arcane, like models, stencils, painters, skins. Like the file structure is ridiculous.
I feel but I feel like people have been modding games for so long that it's like the fact that you don't know how to do that is bonkers.
People have been modding Trackmania for so long.
Right, exactly.
And then I Googled where to put the skin and couldn't find anything. And then I went
just fucking Notepad.
I went back into the game, and if you look at it in the carousel view, not the grid view, there's a little checkbox, and if you click the checkbox, then it assigns your car that skin.
I love it.
Labeled by anything.
If you want to like edit the skin, like you download it.
Yes.
Is that
yes.
Okay? So if you want to like, I like the skin, but I want to like make Sonic's feet different.
I love it so much.
It's very strange.
It's
and
a
I don't
beautiful
know
mess.
I can't tell if there's horn customization yet.
Not that I've seen.
There's I believe a folder for it in the thing.
But that's like, local only.
Yeah. Oh wait, really? So if you play it, then you're the only one who hears it?
Yeah, probably. Like I would assume if it's on a like your local, maybe it would upload, but I don't think it would do that. Maybe, I guess that's how it used to do it. I don't know.
You used to be able to put in custom stuff and people would hear it, so you'd have someone with like a train horn.
And maybe it's just not in the like. There's no way to change it in the game though. So maybe if you just like change that file. And just like same name.
I need to make sure that when I hit the horn button, everyone on the server hears the entirety of the next episode by Dr. Dre.
there was a remix of that also. I love Trackmania. Like
weed every day.
Exactly. For me, Trackmania has the same vibe that like Quake 3 did back in the day. Like where people are coming in with like multicolored names and you're just like, how do you do that? And they're like, well, what you do. It's like, here's this archaic secret of how you do that. And it's just that kind of stuff in the community all the time. Like I think for me, this is like one of 3 games that is definitely in the running for my game of the year for sure.
I suspect it will make my list for sure.
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's so good.
It's really good. Yeah,
I'm going to continue playing it pretty much every night.
I need to put more time into it. But
it's a very good game to boot up for like a half an hour before you go to bed or whatever. It's that kind of thing for sure.
I'm just scared that I'm going to lose entire days to it like I did with Trackmania Stadium.
I'm not scared. Ooh, I'm not scared of it.
Ooh.
Sorry, someone just went off.
I've got the time, but
Styrian Grand Prix updates. They decided to do the qualifying in the rain, and somebody went off the track. They're fine.
Ooh. Okay.
Oh well. Speaking of. Pat, you're playing another racing game.
Yeah, speaking of Formula One, it's been a fun contrast to go from the most arcadey while still requiring you to brake game that exists to one of the more realistic. It's not as realistic as iRacing, but it's up there. and that is Formula One or F1 2020 from Codemasters, which I was sort of on the fence about whether I wanted to pick it up this year, but they added the feature that to me makes that game perfect, and it turns out that it more or less makes that game perfect. So
is it the powertrain team will remember that?
Press F to rev your engine. So F1 2020, the official video game of the 2020 Formula One season, which in real life has been ultra condensed and does not resemble the race calendar.
Wouldn't the official game of the 2020 F1 season be Formula One 2019?
Boom.
or were they doing iRacing? Is that what they were using? What were they using for it?
They were actually using the F1 video game. Yeah,
okay.
It's really good, and I say it's not as realistic as iRacing, but it is. We're talking like unless you are playing in a sim rig with all of the assists turned off and like seated in a chair that costs thousands of dollars that is specifically for driving race cars, you're not going to notice. Like, you're not going to be able to pick apart the handling model and how it's not as realistic. Like the drivers use F1 to sort of play in the off season and keep themselves sharp and stuff. So it's a very, very realistic Formula One video game when you turn everything off. I'm still playing with a controller. I want a racing wheel very, very bad, but I'm not allowing myself to get one until I get rid of the Vive that I'm not using anymore. So if anybody wants to buy a Vive, just, let me know. But
PJC plays on Twitter.
Yeah. But the new game is, for starters, they've improved the handling model even more, which I didn't really think was possible, but they tightened up some of the way that the physics work on corner exits, so it feels even better to play. They added a casual mode, which is great. So if you're just like really into the look of F1 cars and tracks, the casual mode doesn't quite make it into a kart racer, but it makes it like very easy to get into and play for anybody. So that's a fun thing if you're interested in that, and you can use the casual mode in one-off races or in the standard like season modes. But the real draw for me this year was they finally added a mode called My Team. In the past, the only career modes have been ones where you play as a driver and try to like get yourself signed to different teams, which is fun.
God,
and that's still in.
Yeah.
That's still really cool, and it's in there. And for that mode, they've also added it. So there's a Formula One. The reason it's called Formula One is because it is a formula, a rule set that they refer to as a formula that is specific to the kind of like car. So the formula in Formula One refers to the regulations, basically. So there's also Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4. There's all these different FIA.
Formula E.
Formula E is electric cars, yeah. Formula 2 is kind of the minor leagues for Formula 1. The different teams in F1 have Formula 2 teams that they're affiliated with, kind of like with minor league baseball. And then typically drivers will, you have to have a super license to drive in Formula 1, which is the hardest driving license to get in the world. So by driving in Formula 2, you can get points towards your super license. And then once you have enough points, you're able to move to a Formula 1 team, assuming there's one that wants to hire you to drive. But anyway, in the video game, you can now do a full Formula 2 season before you get to Formula 1, or a condensed season, or go straight to F1. Last year's game had like a little narrative bit that would play out over the course of a condensed Formula 2 season. That's no longer there, which is fine. It was interesting, but it wasn't like the EA stuff where it was like a full story. It was a pretty short thing.
There was no like, what was that Spike Lee 2K basketball game where there was ghosts?
No. I mean, it had like voice acting cutscenes. It had a character that was like your rival and stuff, but it was only about an hour to play through, and then you got to F1, and he was still your rival, but it didn't have the cutscenes and stuff once you got to F1. Anyway, the new thing though, My Team, is what I have wanted for a long time from these games, which is you create the 11th Formula 1 team. There's currently 10 teams competing in Formula 1. In F1 2020, you can create your own team. You are both the team principal, which is like the coach of the team, and the number one driver. Teams have two drivers. They usually have a lead driver and then a support driver. Well, support's the wrong word. Number one and number two driver.
Yeah.
Typically the number one driver is like considered better, but that doesn't mean there's not really any difference really between them, other than sometimes teams will use the number two driver to support the number one driver in a way that the number two driver usually doesn't like. There's politics and stuff. But.
Sounds like some Tour de France kind of bullshit.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not pervasive though. Like it's not like a constant thing. Usually the two drivers consider each other rivals and partners. Like they don't hate each other. Sometimes they do, but usually they don't. Anyway, there is precedent in real F1 for drivers to also be the team coach. It hasn't happened in like 40 years. So it's a little fantastical that would be the case, but it makes for a really fun mode where you're doing things like allocating budgets and you are hiring a number two driver. And then there's politics around keeping them on the team. In interviews, you have like, it'll have you like give you the option like call out specific divisions within your team, and then it improves their morale, which makes it easier for them to research car upgrades and stuff. And it makes for a really interesting mode because you're getting sort of the franchise management you would get out of a game like The Show or NBA 2K's like My Team modes, but it's so different because in Formula One, you know, you have two drivers and then everything else is about developing the car. And so it's a different set of verbs that you're using to try to develop the car. And then on top of that, one of the things that's so exciting about Formula One is it's not always about who wins the race. It's so much about the midfield and like getting points and what's happening down track from like the top racers. So what's cool is in a realistic world, and I've yet to really dig deep enough. In my first race, I qualified at number 3 grid position and then came in third place and almost came in second place, which is highly unrealistic for a brand new team that is I'm using a Renault power unit, and like that's not that Renault is a midfield team. So it's not impossible, but it didn't feel super realistic, but I'm still tuning the difficulty. So that's probably a big part of it. But if you get it to a place where it feels realistic, you're not competing to win the race. You're competing for 8th, 9th, 10th place in your early seasons, which is really interesting because you get to sort of see your team develop over time and get better. It's not like Mario Kart where you're like, well, I want to win the circuit, so I'm going to restart it if I don't win, kind of thing. And so it's very cool when you combine that with the really good handling, and it looks utterly incredible. Like there's moments where you would be forgiven for mistaking it for real racing from certain angles, not all the time, but it's good. And then they have a really good like the treatment, the production value and stuff. When you start the race, you get all of the like lead in graphics that they use on the real broadcasts, and you get the real commentators talking over things. It's really, really, really impressive. I'm really pleased that they were able to kind of breathe extra new life into the game in a year when it's really weird. The real life F1 is really strange right now.
And real life is really weird. But
yeah.
Like F1 seems like in terms of racing games has been the most consistent over the years that I've heard. Like it sounds like there's been a couple of years where it's been not as great, but like in general, people are always like, yeah, this year's one is good.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, they don't change too much about it from year to year. This is like probably the biggest change. Last year, adding the F2 narrative stuff was the big change, and that didn't feel as consequential as this by any means. This year, the My Team mode is like is a huge deal, I think, and I think it should be the foundation for what they do in the future for sure.
Cool. Allyson, Andre, I have a question for both of you.
Mm-hmm.
How many F1 drivers? How many F1 drivers can you name?
0.
So,
0. I mean, honestly,
Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
I love that.
Not
Allyson.
an F1 driver. Lewis Hamilton is an F1 driver.
Yep. Pastor Maldonado.
Sure.
That's
I've got.
that's all I've got for like sure.
I've got
Alexander Hamilton and Pastor Maldonado.
I've got. One of those isn't right, but that's fine. I've got Kimi Räikkönen.
All right.
And Schumacher.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, those are the two I got. And Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel. Yes.
Sebastian Vettel. Yeah.
Yep. Sebastian Vettel, who at the end of this season does not have a seat anywhere, despite being one of the best F1 drivers of the last 2 decades. That's a
I didn't
whole
know
other
that.
can of worms.
Christian Bale.
He's getting the boot
Christian
from
Bale.
What's funny is that Red Bull's team principal is named Christian Horner, but it's not here or there.
Max Verstappen. That's
Max
a good
Verstappen
name.
is the future of F1. He is a young bull, as Red Bull likes to put it.
He is the last person whose name I would have possibly been able to pull.
I'm surprised that anyone knows who Max Verstappen is outside of Formula One fans because he's so new.
We got Tom Brady.
Tim Tebow. I think that's what he's doing now.
Fernando Alonso. Anyone?
I've actually heard that name. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big one. He's coming back.
I think he's a
next year.
character in Prison Break.
Also, I should say before we move on that Formula One 2020 has introduced a battle pass. It's called the Podium Pass. Whatever
Battling
version
for
of the
that
game.
podium
Oh my
position.
god, I love
The
it.
version of the game, I guess I got the Schumacher edition because it was only like $5 more.
I have to
come
ask
with a
before,
pair of shoes, like
before,
racing
shoes?
okay, before anything, does it allow your driver to floss?
I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. So whatever version of the game I bought came with 15,000 of their premium currency.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what you can spend it on. The Podium Pass was 9,000 of the currency, so I bought it.
So maybe towards the next Podium Pass.
So, well, the first one was like a Saturday Night Fever pose where you're like doing a weird disco pose that happens when you're on the podium.
Oh, I love it. There has to be a floss then.
So there's probably a floss in there somewhere. Fuck. What is funny is when you start playing, it's like this year's Formula One introduces content that you can unlock over the course of the whole game's lifespan. And I was like, okay. And it's like, it's called the Podium Pass and it's completely free. And I was like, huh, okay. And then it's like, there's also a paid tier you can purchase if you like. So it's like, okay, so it's just the same kind of battle pass as everything else.
That's so good.
I will say that what I do like about the Podium Pass is you do progress it whether you're playing multiplayer or single player. So
that's cool.
You do not have to play multiplayer in order to advance it. Their multiplayer, by the way, is wild because you have a license. And so like if you race like an asshole, you will lose points and then you won't be able to play in like ranked online play, which is fucking wild. Man,
I feel like I would have a rough time with F1 multiplayer because I'd be used to Trackmania, which has no clipping.
Yeah. No, there's lots of clipping. In fact, if you clip in Formula One, you lose wheels. So you cannot. And so basically the way that the points work is like there's like a race director that like if it determines who causes contact and stuff, and it's pretty accurate about it. And if you like exceed track limits by cutting corners and stuff like that, it'll give you those points. And then eventually it'll be like, well, for a week you can't play ranked because you drove like an asshole.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. You have to agree to the terms of that when you first boot up the game. But yeah, if you have a passing interest in Formula One, I would recommend check out the Netflix series Drive to Survive. Even if you're not that interested in Formula One, it's amazing. Really, really good. It really goes into the personalities of the people behind it, which is a huge part of the game, or a huge part of the sport. And then the Shift F1 podcast is excellent as well, from Daniel Dwyer, Rob Zachney, and Drew Scanlon. They do a primer episode every season. And their primer for this season was well before the COVID pandemic. So it's a little outdated in terms of some information, but it still will get you up to speed.
Up to speed?
I didn't mean to do that.
Alexander Hamilton, they are waiting in
Oh,
the pit
no.
for you.
Oh my God.
There's
They
a
are
lot
changing
of
your wheels for you.
there's a lot of problems with that on numerous levels. That
Please
we
read
don't-
my
we don't
cannibal
have to get
Hamilton fanfic where Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson have to race for their rights to do a thing. Politics.
The Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver, probably the best racing driver in any discipline in the history of motorsport, and also one of the only black drivers in the history of motorsport, and certainly the only black driver to win a Formula One World Championship. So,
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So an interesting contrast with the musical Hamilton, which some would say have issues.
It's I don't know. It's the musical about the wonderful sport of Formula One. I don't know what issue you're talking about, but okay, if you say so.
I have to say I have no interest in Formula One, but if they made a musical about it, I would watch that musical.
That's what Hamilton's about.
Should.
What do you think?
One of the best parts about Formula One is that there's so much content each weekend to watch, because you get like 3 90-minute practice sessions, an hour qualifying session, and then an hour race. So during the 90-minute practice sessions, and what's also cool about it is, unlike something like football or other sports, if you watch all that content over the course of a weekend, you've seen everything Formula One for the weekend. It's not like there's a bunch of different games taking place, but during the practice sessions, the commentators are just like fucking just goofing off and saying like ridiculous stuff all the time. Like the one that I loved from Thursdays was one of the commentators was like, well, the grandstands are empty except for one lone little boy with a spyglass. Let's go to Ted Kravitz. And then he was like, he ignored him for like 10 seconds because of the joke. And like, Ted, are you there?
That's
Ted.
so good.
He was like, sorry, I wasn't listening. It's very funny. They're very likable.
Do what like Japan and Korea have been doing with their sporting events, and just filling the stands with stuffed animals.
Instead, they've put tarps over the stands that have advertisements on them, which probably helps them. It probably helps them recoup the massive financial loss that I'm sure that this season has been.
You know, that's
I suppose,
fair.
but it also kind of sucks.
In a sport where teams have budgets up to the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay.
There was some concern among the fandom that this year would potentially be really, really bad for the future of F1.
Totally fair. You know, yeah, that's reasonable. They another thing they could do is the thing they did in Barcelona with the opera, where they just filled it with plants.
That was so cool. They should totally do that. Unfortunately,
to the plants for reaction shots.
Unfortunately, too, and I think it probably depends largely on where they've been in Austria for 2 weeks. But there's like people still showing up. They're just not allowed into the track area and the grandstands. So they're just like, 400 yards away on the side of a mountain with binoculars, and you can still see them in like camera shots and stuff. Which awesome. Don't do that. Don't just watch it from home. You can watch all of it with an F1 TV subscription, which is like $8 a month.
Yeah, probably the smart way to handle it. Well, let's make a pit stop. Yeah, a lot of racing talk. Let's make a pit stop and talk about an old favorite, Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I don't need to talk about that too much, but I've been decided to put Fire Emblem Three Houses back on the Switch. So I've been playing that, playing Black Eagle's House. I would like to eventually get through all of the main routes, but that might take a while. I started playing Black Eagles like right after I finished my first Blue Lions route, and I think I needed a break because this is a big game with
That's exactly
all the
what
content.
happened. That's exactly what happened to me. Is I finished the same route. I finished the Blue Lions route, and I was like, I want to see what happens in Black Eagles because it seemed like a cool house.
Yeah.
And then
you have to play the entire beginning of the game over again.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's a
Basically
good
the
beginning,
same.
but at the same time, it's like you're like, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. So it'll be interesting to see how long it takes me to get through the rest of these. But
Yeah.
I also paid for the expansion pass, so I will see how those
You get
new
the rat school or rat kids or whatever.
yeah, whatever that is.
The bikini pass.
Yeah, sure. My character has glasses now, so worth the 30 bucks.
Every penny.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna play the side story soon and then get the new characters. So it'll be interesting to see.
Make sure to save yourself some pain right before you get to like the big reveal moment.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a save and keep a save there, because
that's what I'm planning.
if
So
you
I don't
want to
have
play
to
all the paths, you're gonna have to go back to that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning, is that I can just do. I'm gonna do one Black Eagle path and then go back to that save and then finish the other path where it diverges.
When you have the opportunity to recruit new students, do you have a list of who some of your first ones will be?
Ooh. So the thing is with recruiting, since I'm playing as a female character, Sylvain will just go with you immediately. So I've already recruited
Of course he will.
him. Yeah. So like he just shows up, he's like, hey, I was thinking I'd like to be in your house. And you're just like, Sylvain.
You're like, I am hot.
but apparently that's the case. So I have Sylvain.
That's pretty funny.
Other than that, I mean, I love all the Blue Lions. So I'm just like, anytime I like it comes up to like how there's this stuff where if you hit somebody's birthday, you can give them like birthday flowers.
Yep.
I'm like, I will do that for every Blue Lion. I will talk to you all the time. So I love those guys. So that's anybody I can grab from that house would be good. Except like I know that I can't grab Dudu.
Yeah, you can't get Dudu. That's exactly what I was thinking.
My boy.
But see, if you've already got them, shouldn't you want to find like the other people? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I do want to do the Golden Deer route eventually. And I do like the characters in it. Like that's the thing, is that I genuinely there are very few characters in this game where I'm just like, I don't care for you. But like I feel like most of the characters are so well. Are we thinking of the same one?
What's the kid's name?
Oh, Cyril.
They're all
Cyril.
kids.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was thinking Cecil or whatever. Yeah, Cyril. He sucks.
Yeah, no, he does kind of suck. No, but I'm gonna recruit him anyways because the other one is like Lawrence, who I don't like him.
I like him.
Lawrence is blue hair.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Lawrence is Golden Deer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he? Then he's not.
As someone who played most of that game as Golden Deer, I will say Lawrence is one of the interesting characters. He's kind of a dick
he gets
bag,
interesting
because he does. Yeah.
Okay, because like if you don't see any of that, you just are like, okay, he's kind of.
He's an asshole.
He's a noble asshole.
He's a noble asshole, and for the first half of the game, he's just you're just like, dude, I just want to fucking just cut your head off, basically, because he'll like go up to women in the house and be like, so when are we going out? And you're like, and they're like, no, and he's like, I mean, you have to because I'm a noble, so
yeah.
And it's just like, dude, I don't want to be your teacher. I don't want to play this game anymore.
You're expelled.
So you suck
ass.
You just turn him into your
just
vanguard.
Say like, hey, you're expelled, by the way.
You, at the very least, when he asks why the women in the house don't like him, you can basically say, because you're an asshole. And but then eventually he does kind of like start to like there's a decent, if I recall, it's been a while since I played, but there's a decent moment where he's talking to someone and he's like, oh, this, I love doing this, and that person's like, I've never done that, and he's like, it's not riding horses, but it's like playing like polo or something like that. It's like some rich people activity.
Yeah,
and
like rich person game.
The other person's like, it's one of the women in the house who is not a noble, and she's like, yeah, I've never done that, and he's like, what do you mean? We do it all the time. And she's like, we don't, you do. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then like starts to understand a little bit. But
like, oh, class differences are a thing.
He has
like,
the same problem that a lot of characters in that game, in my opinion. Like, one of the issues I had with getting into it was like, dude, we've been playing for like 25 hours and people have been trying to explain this to you for 25 hours. And your one note this whole time has been, I'm a rich asshole. And now a light bulb's going off. But otherwise, his story does get a little bit more interesting.
Okay. So at least when I get to Golden Deer, I'll be able to tolerate it eventually.
Yeah, he's really awful for a while though. And I don't know that I would say he gets better, but at least
the story around
him gets interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you already have one of the best characters in the game in your house.
Yes, I do.
She's the best. I love her. We don't even need to name her because she's the best.
I know. I know that we're both on the same page.
Because she has hella social anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel that. Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm just so happy she's in my house. And yeah, that's that. Like I said, like, I think out of all the houses, like, Blue Lions is currently my favorite, but that might be just because I spent so much time with them and I got like really emotional about their story. So maybe a lot of these will grow on me, but I've always loved Bernadetta. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I didn't even really want to recruit her, not because I didn't like her though, just because like I didn't need another person. But it was always enjoyable to go knock on her door and see like if I could get
cause her
like,
intense anxiety.
No, I mean,
asshole.
It's not to cause her anxiety, but to like try to like be like, I brought cake for you.
And
Do you
she's
want
just like,
this?
I hate you.
Yeah, she's like, no, I don't.
It's like, just close the door.
But then she starts
yes, I
breaking
do
out of
want
her
it. Put it
shell,
on the
and
ground.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful when she starts like.
She's one of the characters that has a good arc and an interesting one.
She leaves her room, and you're just like, Bernadette, I'm so proud of you. It's great.
That game, I have such mixed feelings about that game.
Yeah.
Oh, mine are not mixed at all, considering it was number one on my list last year.
But like, I'm thinking back to like, I really liked like Dorothea's story and stuff like that. Like all of those were so good.
She's good.
There are very good parts of that game, and then there are parts that are like, why did you design it like this? Why did you do this?
Yeah.
You know, but that's
I think overall it's a good game.
Yeah,
but
overall
that's
I
just
like
Nintendo.
it too. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
it's gonna be really. I was just thinking about that because I'm like, I mean, from what I understand, this game did really well. So I'm assuming that they're going to be making another Fire Emblem for Switch sooner or later.
They sure as shit ain't making Advanced Wars.
Right. But I mean, like, it'll be interesting to see how they.
That wasn't Intelligent Systems, was it?
No, but there's some devs from it. But anyways, sorry. Please continue.
But no, I just think that it'll be interesting to see where they go with the Fire Emblem formula from Three Houses.
And I think as somebody who ultimately came away pretty negative on that game, a lot of those design decisions that they make, I have my criticisms of like the narrative decisions in the first half of the game, but I can't really comment on it as on a whole because I didn't finish it. And I think a lot of those systems are the kind of things that's like, I think we spent like a half hour gushing about how great Trackmania is. Someone could boot up that game and go, this fucking sucks. I can't figure out how to play it. And then bail. And I would respect that as a really valid criticism. But at the same time, I really like that game. So I think it's like, I don't like some of the gameplay choices that they made, but if it doesn't affect your enjoyment of the game that much and you still really love it, like I can't be critical of that either. So
yeah, like I feel like I understand, like when we've gone through all of the Fire Emblem discussion before, I feel like I understand where you're coming from. It's just that for whatever reason, even the like jank feels cozy to me.
Yeah, no,
in a weird way.
Sure.
And I think like no, and that might be like a Nintendo thing for me in general, where like like we're talking about that, or like with Pokemon or something, where it's like I'm like, oh, it's just their weird design choices. I'm fine.
To pull it back to Trackmania, that because that's what needs to happen when you're comparing Fire Emblem.
Like that's the closest comparison.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing.
Is a Nintendo ass release.
Yeah,
it's just not,
especially for online.
It's not like the menus aren't polished enough.
Right, but like when you're saying like the jank ass feels comfortable, like that's when I'm like, oh, I didn't feel comfortable in Trackmania Turbo because it didn't have the billion leaderboards on the side.
Yeah, and
so,
I think it is I think one could be, I'm not being critical of you in this way, Allyson, but I think one could be critical of the Nintendo fan base of forgiving a lot of bullshit because Nintendo makes very cozy games.
Yeah, I feel like I try to like.
Oh yeah, you do. I'm not. That's
recognize that. No, but I totally get it, because I mean there are definitely times where I'm just like, oh, the online for this Nintendo thing is terrible, but I'm like, that's Nintendo.
But the thing is, that's something that a lot of fandoms do. Like as someone who's a huge fan of CRPGs, like CRPGs often have a lot of jank, and they also often have a lot of like pretty problematic elements to their lore and stories and stuff, and people who are fans of that genre find ways to like reconcile that too. So sometimes I think on the one hand, I do think that the Nintendo fandom can sometimes be a little forgiving, but at the same time I think people can be critical of the Nintendo fandom in a way where they're not critical of the things that they are themselves very forgiving of. So at the end of the day, it's like you like what you like,
except for Sticker Star. No one likes Sticker Star.
Yeah, no. I mean, that sure, yeah.
But like, honestly, for good reason, though.
Yeah.
Wow, I had a transition all lined up way back when we talked about Lorenz, but it's too late now.
It's a noble effort.
So, well, I think Allyson's been putting in a mobile effort with this next game.
Yeah, but I'm still playing it on Switch though.
Damn it!
Thank you. I'm so
hey,
glad.
the Switch is still mobile.
That.
Yeah,
no,
Switch is still a mobile. Yes, it is. Take that with you.
I mean,
my PlayStation's mobile too.
So.
You can't play it mobily. I guess you could if you had like a battery and a screen, but that's
just pull out my old screen from my PS1 that snapped onto it and snap it onto my PS4.
So badass.
Take it on it was so cool to play like what was it Legend of Dragoon? Probably. I can't remember. I played a full JRPG for like a 12-hour car ride once.
Okay.
It fucking rules.
That's pretty great.
It was awesome.
Yeah, no, but what I've been playing, what I played a little bit earlier this week was the sequel to a game I've already talked about, which is Kuukiyomi Considerate. I played Kuukiyomi 2, Considerate more.
Yes.
It is.
That's so good.
I hope the next one is Considerate the third.
I don't know, but I am on board because these games are weird and like. I know you can get the first one on mobile. I don't know what the second one is or if it's on mobile.
Only in Japanese right now.
On mobile?
But like, yeah, I downloaded it earlier. You can download it. It's on like the Western Play Store, but it's all in Japanese. But you drag stuff around on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, like if you want to play that, it'll be on mobile. They'll translate it eventually because it's in English in the on the Switch store right now. Although they do very charmingly say like parts of this game's text will be in Japanese. Enjoy Japanese culture, and you're just like, okay. But if you hadn't heard the episode where I talked about it, it's basically kind of a WarioWare type game, except it's with you in social situations deciding how considerate to be. So for example, one of the things that's on the store page for it is somebody says, okay, you can have one bite of this cake, and you have to pick like what bite you take. So could you pick like the biggest bite you possibly can? Do you take all of the strawberry on the top of the cake, or do you just like take a tiny piece? And it's like, it's all like trying to be considerate about other people, but it's very some of the situations are extremely specific to Japanese culture, to the point where I'm like, it doesn't really tell you how you did until the end of like 5 of these situations, and it gives you like a score, but I don't know what it means.
Like there was one in the first one where you're at a conveyor belt sushi restaurant, or a sushi go round, as it's often called. And it's like, okay, which sushi are you going to take? Because you're like in between several people. So it's like, do you just take a bunch in a row, or you just like let a few go by, then take one, let a few go by, then take one, or do you take a bunch? Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah.
And then it just ends, and it doesn't really tell you what you're doing. So it kind of leaves you to stew in the situation of, wait, did I do the right thing? Like there was one where you're on a bus and you get to the end, and you get to the last stop. Do you still like do the button to say like to alert the driver that you want to get off?
Ring the bell, whatever.
Do you still ring the bell, or do you just get up? And then it just like you decide what to do, and then it fades into the next one, and you're like, no, I don't know what I did. Was I wrong? Was I right? And it kind of just makes you stew in these real life situations, but some of them are very much not real life. Like in the first one, there's one where it's like, hey, you're on a date with your girlfriend who happens to be a cow. Do you take her to this restaurant, or do you take her to the meat restaurant? It's like, probably don't want to take her to the meat restaurant. So like some of the situations are very much like, oh, this is really real life. But then some of the other situations are like, what is even going on? And this is basically very, very, very similar to the first one. It's just a lot of different new situations that they've thrown in, basically. Yeah. So it's
cool.
Yeah. So I recommend checking them out if you're interested. At the very least, check out the first one on mobile because it's free, and it's a very, very weird game, but it kind of does scratch that WarioWare itch, especially since we need one of those on Switch, please.
It always felt somewhere between WarioWare and like Hidden My Game by Mom.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. But like it's also just a lot of like specific Japanese culture things too, where you're just like as an American who like I know a decent amount about it, but I at the same time I don't know everything about Japanese culture, obviously, since I wasn't born or don't live in it. There are certain things where you're just like, wait, what is the most considerate way to go about this?
Wait, what do I do with this business card?
What do I do? Yeah, exactly. And you
got to take like, both hands.
Yeah, you have to
grab it. You have to look at it. You have to be like, "Oh, damn, that's a nice business card," and then you have to put it in a pocket, in your business card holder. Like you have to be like, "Oh, sugoi. Oh, nice."
Yeah, like there's one recently where you're a cashier and you're giving change back, and like I forgot that in Japan they have those little like change thingies that you like put it in.
Oh,
so I just handed it to the person, and I was just like, then I see the like that there's a little indentation, and I was like, no, I did it wrong.
And then they take the money from you, and then they put it in the tray. Like, listen, motherfucker.
So
I'm afraid to go to Japan.
There's so many of those options where you're just like, wait, no, I did it wrong, and then it just fades out, and you're like still stewing in that, and then you have to deal with like escalator etiquette, and it's like,
that's very funny.
Yeah.
Japanese people need to get their shit together when it comes to escalators and like walkways. They need to pick a side. there is no consistency. Like maybe one train station will have consistency. Like everyone will do the same thing at one train station, but between train stations, good luck trying to figure it out.
For what it's
Never gonna be
worth,
the same.
in the two places that I've lived the most the place that I lived the most in the Midwest in Michigan, people generally like pick their lanes appropriately when they're going through like the grocery store or on an escalator or whatever. Same's true in Seattle, but I lived in Florida for a long time, and in Florida it's a complete fucking nightmare. People just walk on.
There's a lot of old people that are confused.
Can you imagine Kuukiyomi 3 in Florida?
Please don't. No one should do that.
Okay, developers of Kuukiyomi, I know that you're from Japan and aiming this like at Japan, but like, can you just show us what you think Kuukiyomi?
The game should only be about airlifting Florida? People that are marginalized in Florida out of the state so that they don't have to live there anymore, and then building a wall between Florida and Georgia.
Get some like alligators, and like, what do you do when there's an alligator on your doorstep? You know, consider that.
My neighbor looks like they're cooking meth. What do I do?
But I just want them to make it from
realistic.
a very.
I had that thought when I lived in Florida.
Oh God.
So I want to describe.
Sorry to our Florida-based listeners.
I'm not.
Kat doesn't apologize.
I was born there, so I'm allowed to say that. I want to point out when
I have a friend from Florida.
I didn't know what Kuukiyomi was, and I googled it, and in the image results, I'm going to try to describe the image that I found. There is a person over I guess it looks like a bathtub kind of. With their hands on either side of the bathtub, and then they're kind of like on their hands and knees with their knees keeping themselves from like falling in the bathtub. And they have a very large buttocks that in the art kind of appears upside down, like the cheeks seem like they're upside down, which is weird. And they're wearing like the large underpants, and it says above them, "Don't push me," and then right on their butt it says "Stuntman."
On comedy show.
Yeah. So that's weird. And if you like stuntmen and big butts,
and you cannot lie. Well, speaking of liking big butts, if you like big butts, you might like Hades.
That's accurate. There's a lot of hot people in Hades.
Yeah, everybody
like
in
on
Hades
fire?
is hot. No, well, I mean, but also like and attractive.
And attractive in a wide range of ways. The art design in that game fucking slaps. Like it's
to be expected.
So good.
It's a super giant game.
I think it's above and beyond the stuff that they've even done. I mean, Pyre has some pretty remarkable art, but But
and I don't mean to take that, like, I don't mean it in a way to take away from anything Hades is doing, because it does look incredibly good, and like the range of styles and character design,
and like different really kinds of people and stuff is really cool.
So Hades is Supergiant's latest. It's an early access. It launched in early access on the Epic Game Store when that launched. Was that 2 years ago? A year ago?
It was a year ago. It was a year and a half now.
Year and a half, yeah.
It was in December 2018.
Okay, that's okay. So yeah, that happened, and it's been chugging along in early access ever since. I picked it up two weeks ago, I think. Yeah, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and boy, is that game good. Like, it's just so good. It's supposed to be hitting 1.0 later this year, so it'll be out of early access. They just did their final big update, which is like, it seems like a pretty complete game. I haven't like gotten to the end of whatever's there, but basically they just need to add in the end of the game at this point. So that's where they're at.
I think they may have actually done that, because they put out an update that said that like they pushed the new update that made it basically content complete, and the next patch is mostly just balance tweaks and bug fixes.
I thought it was the real ending. Maybe I could be wrong.
Maybe there's something narrative that they were secretive about and that they actually slid into the final thing too. I don't know.
So I've not been keeping up with anything Hades, like ever since it was announced in early access. I don't know. I know it's isometric, much like all of their games are pretty much. So what's different about it? Like, what is it?
It is a roguelike.
Cool.
Or roguelite.
It's a roguelite.
A roguelite.
A roguelike light.
You are playing as Zagreus, the son of Hades and Persephone, and you are trying to escape the underworld to go up to the human world and join your family members on Olympus, or and like chill out with the other gods, because you're like, I'm sick of the underworld. I'm a angsty teen.
Yeah, Zagreus has very good angsty teen vibes, but not in a way where you want to punch him. In a way where you're like, I've been there too. I get it.
He's just like so over it.
Yeah,
he's just too cool for dad.
And it's reasonable too, because dad's kind of like at once an asshole and also like kind of a chump, but like, but he's also Hades, so
yeah, he
kind of runs things.
And he's got all his beef with the gods of Olympus and being sad about Persephone because she's not around anymore, and
he has
all that kind of stuff.
So is it a bunch of combat encounters and then there's story in between?
Yeah. So so you're doing runs and you're going through the various levels of Olympus. There's like 4 main levels, I think. Yeah, 4 levels. And then there's like boss fights and stuff between. And you're collecting boons from each of the gods. Like after you complete a combat room, you'll like get a reward. Sometimes it's like a key or it's a resource, like like darkness shards or gems. And you use those between your runs to upgrade your to upgrade Zagreus and make him stronger, or unlock new weapons, stuff like that. And in each time you encounter the gods, they have like some little thing to talk about with you. There's so much voice acting and like, and you can give them a certain item you find, like this little vial of something, and that increases your relationship with them. And so then they'll like have more conversations with you, and then you get more stuff in your like codex about the gods. And then once you die, you go all the way back to like the entrance of Hades, where all the new spirits are coming in. And Hades is there like, yep, next. And there's various people hanging around that you can talk to, like Nyx, who is Nyx is the god. She's like pre-goddess, not Titan, but she's like darkness. And she like did the underworld before Hades showed up.
Oh,
and then
so it's not Nyx assassin. It's not a spiky bug.
No,
I was
not a goblin
joke, and then I didn't.
Dota, right? I'm thinking of Styx. That's what I'm thinking of.
Styx the goblin.
Yeah. And then there's like Hypno, who is like the sleep guy, and he's like monitoring all the people coming in to Hades. And Achilles is here, and he's the one who trains Zagreus, and you can always talk to him and it'll be like, oh yeah, I'm trying to help you get out of here, but there's only so much I can do. I trained you, I didn't train Hades. Stuff like that. And so you're getting all these interesting character backstories and interactions pulling from Greek mythology, like Eurydice and Orpheus. No, what's his name?
Morpheus.
I can't remember. Orpheus, maybe.
Morpheus. He's like,
no, not Morpheus.
I believe it's Orpheus.
You're the one.
No, that is not the one. So I think
take
Orpheus.
The red vial or the blue vial.
Yeah, and so you're like Eurydice and Orpheus. Orpheus went to the underworld to try and save Eurydice from the underworld, but then there was like, okay, if you don't look back, before you get out of the underworld, then you'll save her and you can take her out. But then right before he got out, he looked back to see if she was still there, and because he like lost faith or whatever, and so she was doomed to be stuck in the underworld. And so she's like, you find her and she's like still mad about it and like, or that jackass. But now Orpheus is dead and he's like in Hades' hall as the minstrel or whatever. And he's like, oh, I feel so bad about it. I miss her, but I can't do anything because I doomed her here. And so you're like unpacking that story between runs.
Good stuff where you'll like come back and Hades is like, it's good to see you again. And like he's just like mocking you the whole time.
Because you're back again.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. That sounds.
You can pet Cerberus.
Oh, cool.
Your ex-girlfriend is trying to kill you.
She's one of the first bosses.
She is the first boss.
Yeah.
It sounds
it's
interesting.
Very good.
Does the combat does it feel kind of like Bastion in that you can kind of play it with a bunch of different combat styles, or Transistor for that matter?
So there are. I'd say it's closer to Bastion than Transistor because Transistor is very like strategy focused and like slow. There are like six, 7 or 8 weapons. I don't remember exactly. And each one is very different from the others.
Cool.
Yep.
So and then you can upgrade them and like they each have like 3 alternate modes. So there's like a sword, which is just like, general hack and slash. There's a spear, which you can throw and then recall to you. So it's got like super long range.
I think it's literally Leonidas' spear.
I think it's wielded by gods. It might be part of the Leonidas spear is definitely in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I don't know if that's what, because like they were used in like the war against the Titans. A lot of these weapons were. So, and then there's a bow and arrow. There's a shield. There's some fists, and then there's just a gun.
That sounds like Bastion. Yeah.
And so you can. And before each run, you go into you go through your room and you can upgrade like with your magic mirror in there. And then you go through and there's just like all the weapons. And then there's just the skeleton guy who's like, oh yeah, beat me up. I'm just here to get beat up so you can try your weapons. And then, you pick your weapon, then you go on your run and then you're stuck with that weapon for the whole run. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, well, this weapon, this run is going to give you bonus like resources of a certain kind. So you can be like, well, I want to try and get further and I like this weapon more, like I'm better with that one, but this one's going to give me more stuff. So there's incentive each time to at least think about changing up your loadout. And then there are like extra items you can equip. They're like bonus health or do more damage to enemies far away or do more damage while your health is low, stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's kind of the trap, at least I fell into with Bastion. It's like, oh, I found these 2 weapons that are the perfect combo. I can't think of any other way to play this game. So you just kind of lock into them. But yeah, having something to pull you around by the nose and be like, oh, wait, check this out. Yeah, that sounds cool.
And at least in the amount that I played, I haven't played it as recently, but I played a fair amount of it several months ago. The weapons are also compelling. I also had that problem with Bastion, but in the case of Hades, you want to play them all because they're all so good and so interesting. There isn't like, it's harder to fall into just wanting to use one because like every one run, I was like, well, this time I want to try this one because I did this one last time. And I haven't played this one in a little bit because it's just exquisitely designed. Yeah,
and you're gonna get different bonuses depending on the weapon, or like different boons from the gods depending on the weapon you take. So like if you take a bow and arrow, some of the boons you'll get will be like do more damage to enemies that are far away from you, or do more damage to enemies that are close to you. And like so it changes up your specials and things like that in different ways. So you'll always have like a completely different run, which is nice.
In some ways I don't know. It feels like they just like they played like Dead Cells and Rogue Legacy and were like, these are really cool. We're going to make the best one of these now. Yeah. And we'll see you in a few years.
That sounds really compelling because I like Rogue Legacy a lot. So
I got to play through it, but I can't, at least from a gameplay perspective, I can't imagine a game coming out this year being better. It's like minute to minute to control. Yeah.
Cool.
And so one of the cool things is you can upgrade your dash, and it depends on who you get. So if you get like a boon from Zeus, it might be when you dash, you'll strike a nearby enemy with lightning. If you get like Poseidon to give you a boon for your dash, it'll be when you dash, you create a shockwave of water that sends enemies like flying up away from you. And then you can get like even upgrade that further. So when they hit like a wall, they create another shockwave. And so it's just bouncing enemies all over, and you can just do so much, like stack so many power-ups that you're just doing ridiculous amounts of damage in ridiculous like combos and dashing all over nonstop and basically cool. Just button mashing in
like,
cool ways.
To an extent, that almost kind of sounds like what Transistor brought to the table, in that like you're combining different abilities and like getting different effects out of them. So you're
that's
just
awesome. Doing it in real time.
Yeah.
And it's got like Dead Cells was very like fast paced, but there was kind of a sluggishness to it almost.
It was like an animation priority kind of stuff to it.
Yeah, and there's like none of that here.
No,
like you cancel out of attacks and like dash into attacks and all sorts of stuff. It's great.
Sounds awesome.
It really feels like it has learned lessons from all of the games that they have made, because it does have, foundationally it feels kind of like Bastion, if Bastion were a roguelite, but then like you said, like it has some Transistor in it with the way that certain weapons behave and the way the combat encounters are laid out, and then it has some like Pyre in it from the way the story is delivered. Is very like, it's all voice acted, but it's also, that kind of like two portraits talking to each other in the way a lot of that dialogue is conveyed. So it has like elements of past games that they have made, and it feels like such a cohesive, like all of the stuff. Like if they said, I hope they don't say this, but if they said, we finished Hades, we're dropping the mic, this is the culmination of our games, I would say I would be like, that kind of like makes sense in a way, because this really does combine all those things. I of course hope they don't do that. I don't expect that they'll do that. I would like them to make another game after this, but it definitely feels like sort of a all of the puzzle pieces fitting together in a way that's even better than they have before. Because like we even talked about the music. Yeah. The music is just as you would expect. Darren Korb is my favorite video game composer, but the music is just like, you get so amped up, and it's so like, I get goosebumps when I start a run, and it's and the guitars kick in and stuff. And so it's just so good cohesively, I think.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting, because like I loved Bastion when it came out, but I really didn't like Transistor or Pyre. But the things I did like about Transistor and Pyre are exactly the parts you're talking about. So
yeah,
that's why I'm like, this actually sounds pretty great.
I think you'll like it a lot. I think you should play it for sure.
Yeah. So that's cool. I'll pick it up after this.
Yeah, and again, the art is just incredible.
Yeah, I actually have it, but I haven't played it yet, so I'm going to definitely play it soon.
I saw a clip from I think it was one of the No Clip documentary series. They've been kind of remotely embedded with Supergiant, but Greg Kasavin was kind of saying like Gen Z is perhaps one of, not to take away from anybody else in the industry, Gen Z is perhaps one of the best artists in the history of games. Darren Korb is one of the best composers in the history of games. They just have like, from a design perspective as a unit, they're so smart. And his name's escaping me. Their voice actor lead,
Logan.
Yeah, is just a spectacular, just force vocally for like conveying narrative and stuff like that. It's just they're like a superstar team, and it shows. This is the game that all of their games have been very good, and I think I would totally respect anyone saying. I mean, I respect anybody saying any game's their favorite, but if someone said, Transistor's my favorite game, Pyre's my favorite game, Bastion's my favorite game, I totally get that.
Totally.
This is just like them, like if someone said that they didn't like Hades, I would be like, oh, you just don't like action games, you know, like
Yeah,
This is it's not from its side. It sounds like it sounds like it's taking all of the things that they've been kind of working
Yeah,
towards and
yeah.
are pushing it to its biggest extreme.
yeah. I would almost, in a year where I've have a lot of very hotly anticipated games, you know, Sam could put this on a spreadsheet. I will be shocked if Hades is not right at the top of that list.
yeah,
For sure.
Mhm.
that's super cool.
Like I have thought this could be my game of the year.
Yeah.
Like, because it, you know, when it comes out later this year, that's the plan at least. Like it's so good.
Yeah, I think I might even get it on Steam as well as Epic. Just
It can't be overstated. Gen Z is a fucking amazing artist. You should
Oh,
you should go look at her like actual just straight up work. Like
Yeah.
her
I thought
art,
you were talking
like her
about
concept art.
Generation Z.
Yeah,
the
five-
Zoomers.
For a
What?
little bit, I was just like, yeah, there's a lot of good artists in Gen Z, but
No, Gen Z and Joanne Tran or whatever. I can't remember. Those are the two that do the art for the most part.
Yeah.
And they're just an amazing pair.
That like I love the transistor art is like that's my favorite part of that game. It's just the art is maybe one of my favorite game art things ever, probably. And this is right up there on that same level. And it's really like Greek mythology is some of my favorite mythology stuff, and seeing these versions of these characters and these imaginings is really neat.
And I think they do again, it's like the and I know I'm just kind of gushing at it, but like you see, like, not to take away from the way that Assassin's Creed has kind of done some mythological stuff recently, or the way that God of War did such a great job with Norse mythology, or, you know, various different game studios have treated mythology differently over time, and a lot of times it's pretty cool. But this is just so like, it's on such a different level in a lot of ways to me. The way they're portraying these characters is like, holy shit, you also made the best comic book that I've read maybe ever in this too.
I would love to see like a Netflix animated show, like read a comic book with this art, with these characters.
It's just shocking, like how good it is.
The thing is, I could say that about almost any of their games. Because like it's so cool how, like, that's one thing I will say, even though I did not like playing Transistor or Pyre, like something I really loved is just the world they set up, the characters they had, like the visual design they always have, like
atmosphere,
they're just so
everything.
creative, and they never rest on their laurels. They're always coming up with new stuff. Like Supergiant is a really unique team.
Which is why I'm sure that I said, like, the culmination of their games, whatever. I'm sure that the next thing they make, I'll say all of this over again.
right.
But really, I mean, like, Pyre was a game that I actually didn't finish because I thought it was really cool. I liked a lot of it, and I intend to go back and play it at some point. But I was enthralled by the lore, but not as enthralled by the way they delivered it. I think I'd be more receptive to it now. I didn't
love the basketball.
In that part, I thought was fun, but it was hard to get super excited about it for me. But this game I don't have those same reservations with, and I don't know if it's just because it's a genre that I already like or what. But I definitely don't. There's no part of it where I'm like, this is so amazing. There's just this one hang up that I have. This is just like everything about it is perfect.
I would be really interested in seeing, like, much like I would love to see Yoko Taro directing a Final Fantasy game. I would like an actual Final Fantasy, like numbered. I wonder, like, what kind of game I'd like the Supergiant team to do. Like, maybe like a Command and Conquer, because Greg worked on old Command and Conquers.
Warcraft 4.
So I actually think if I got to pitch them a game for them to make that I wouldn't have any creative input on after pitching them the idea, I would totally pitch them a strategy game for sure. I think they could make a really interesting, fascinating, like, maybe not like Command and Conquer, but some kind of like a real-time strategy game would be a really cool genre for them to take on, I think. And do it in the Supergiant way where it's weird.
Star Trek Away Team 2.
I also,
Halo
I mean,
Wars 3.
they've done the sort of dystopic post-apocalypse, fantasy post-apocalypse. They've done the cyberpunk thing. They've done a fantasy thing. They've done a mythology thing. I would love to see them tackle sci-fi too. That would be awesome.
That would be fun.
Oh
Yeah.
man, you're right. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, yes.
I mean, I just think that they've proven themselves so much that I'm like, whatever you guys
Beyond.
want, it'll be good.
Oh yeah, they have nothing
Yeah.
left to prove. They're just great.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like it's not like, I think they could be like they could be really good doing this. I'm like, I kind of assume that whatever game they do next will be good.
And that clip from that No Clip documentary was really cool, where Greg was basically saying like none of the games that they've made are games that he would have himself made or chosen to make, and that's true for Amir, and that's true for Jen, and that's true for Darren and Logan, that they're all, if any of them had full creative control over any of those projects, none of them would have been what they became. But as a team, they're so dialed in and so like they work so well together that they somehow make these things that none of them could have imagined making on their own.
Oh yeah,
Which is
Totally.
I think I don't want to say it's unique, because I'm sure there are other studios that are like that, but it's such a different thing than, and when you sit down, not to pick on Ubisoft, but like when you say we're going to make a new Far Cry, it's like, okay, where's the setting going to be? And I'm sure that like those games make a lot of money and they're fun to play, but it's so different than this system that they have at Supergiant, where they just like, they somehow forge these wild ideas out of a group of opinions and creative brains that on their own nobody would necessarily bring that thing to the table. That's so cool.
Interestingly, you can see that from 10 years ago. Like if you look at the Building the Bastion series, which I think is still up, which is on Giant Bomb,
so.
And that was basically kind of like the No Clip documentary, them cataloging and like going through
very similar
as they were making Bastion, like when they were first starting with that team, and you still see that kind of that feeling. So
I think that building the Bastion was like the inspiration for the No Clip series around Hades, because that's how they did it too. They gave them the cameras, Danny sent them the cameras, and then they do the documentation themselves, and then Danny just edits it. So it's very similar to that series, and both are really, really good. Cool. And also, I mean, one of the nice things about Supergiant is all those people fucking rule as human beings too.
Oh yes.
From everything I know about them. So you can feel good about watching documentaries about them because they all rock. So yeah, I recommend their PAX panel that they did with Danny from the last physical PAX, PAX 2019. Because they talked about like their history and some of their early stuff, and like the very early days when it was like Amir and I think it was Greg, Amir, and Jen working out of Amir's dad's house. I think it was Amir's dad's house, and they just like they lived and they had their office in the living room, and then they all just lived there.
Wow.
So they were like, I don't remember if Jen lived there or not, but yeah, it was a really interesting story. And so that PAX panel is really cool.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for our game talk this week.
I've missed it.
I have been playing Yakuza Kiwami 1. That game's real fucking good.
I'm still playing hundreds of hours of Ark. That game is not as good as Yakuza, but also really intriguing and fun.
I spent like 3 hours playing Pocket Circuit Racer.
I've been watching
in Yakuza.
I've been watching the Legend of the Galactic Heroes Gaiden, the side story.
Oh god.
I continue to watch Prison Break.
I'm watching Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time.
Fuck yes! I didn't know you were doing that. Where are you?
Oh yeah, I'm in the middle of season 2.
Oh hell yeah!
I never make it past like the Boomy. That's as far as I ever
I
get.
love that show.
I have a thing that I'm gonna get attacked for. It's good we don't have a bigger Twitter following.
Oh,
I
no.
think Avatar is overrated, which is not to say it's not fantastic. It's really, really good. It is extremely good. I love that show too, and I think it's great. Some of the fandom around it goes to an extreme that I think is a little.
I think
beyond.
that they hype it to an extent that no show could ever.
That's what I'm getting
match.
at. Yes, it is.
You're telling me that people on the internet are overstating something's worth.
I know, like, not even on the internet. I know probably 5 to 10 people who would say Avatar is the greatest like human creation of all time, and
That's
it's like
a bit much.
a little. I may be exaggerating.
It's really
a little bit
good,
too, but it's very good.
Yeah, and like for a 15-year-old show, like it was doing some stuff that like
Oh hell yeah, yeah.
nothing else was doing at that time, and that's cool.
It also they're doing a Smite battle pass right now with Avatar characters, so you can skin your Merlin to be like Aang. And stuff.
Wow,
which is pretty fun. You can play as Susanoo, but make him look like Zuko. Yeah,
it's kind of rad.
It's pretty cool.
Hot take: Toph is the best character at the end.
Oh no, that's not a hot take. It's just true.
Everyone agrees with that.
Yeah, Toph is awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your thoughts on the end because I think the last few episodes are like historically, I think that a lot of animated shows end poorly, but I think Avatar ends perfectly.
Yeah, that's good, and that's what I've heard is that like I've been watching it with my sibling who's seen the entire show, at least I think multiple times. Like they know the show very, very well. So they're like, yeah, season 1 is good, but it definitely is one of those shows that ramps up as it keeps going. In that, like a lot of the early episodes, you're like, oh, this is cute. But like but then like you start getting to more of the implications and you start like getting more
serious.
Of the character growth, and it's like that's when it's like really kicks into high gear.
It starts very much as a kid show and then ends up with some moral ambiguity.
And it kind of grows. I remember feeling like it came out at a perfect time for me to watch it as a kid show and then to kind of grow with it a little bit and grow into that. So I think they nailed that sort of arc. In a way similar to stuff like the Clone Wars series, I think. I would also say another hot take of mine, Avatar Last Airbender is fantastic. I think The Legend of Korra might actually be better, though. The Legend of Korra.
That is a legit hot take from what I know.
Absolutely suck.
The end?
The end of Korra isn't just absolutely abysmal.
I haven't seen the end, but I have seen most of it, and it's really good. I
can go ask my sibling for opinions because I know they have strong opinions.
I know at the end they're in lesbians together, but
I don't know anything about. I haven't seen much of the fandom. I kind of avoid that stuff, so I don't know.
I think I have friends who really enjoy Avatar and Korra, and I believe that there was something weird with like they kind of like cut it short on like the 3rd season or something, and then they're like, oh, here's the final season is online only.
Okay.
And it got
it was
weird
over
in some weird way.
Yeah,
I've seen the first 2 seasons, I think, and I thought they were.
That's all I saw.
I thought they were really fantastic.
But in terms of queer representation, The Legend of Korra walked so She-Ra could run, is what I'm going to say.
Boom.
Yes.
I do think we would be remiss if we did not mention that Aaron, I don't know how to say this guy's name. He was the head writer and executive producer. Has been accused of sexism, I guess.
Just general, like also
very
like office
sexist behavior at his office and just being a general shithead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And treating people poorly who work for him.
So my recommendation is to watch She-Ra. No, but the show is good so far. But
yeah, we talk about that with other stuff. So figure, hey, it's important to bring that up.
No, I think it's important.
That I forgot to bring that up, and it is important.
And every time I watch an episode and I see his name show up in the credits, I do have like this visceral like, oh, it's you about it. So,
well. If it isn't the news.
Woo!
Damn.
Hello, it's me. Is it me you're looking? Is it the news you're looking for? I don't know. What am I saying? Who are you people? Where am I?
Hi, Andre.
Gobble gobble.
It's gonna make
He's
sense
a turkey
to no
now,
one.
FYI.
Yeah, it's gonna make sense to no one but the
Yeah.
people on this call.
His face rig is now a turkey, and also just like as other context, he's been playing the what looks like the entirety of Good Burger in
It's
the background.
just 10 minutes. It's just 10 minutes
Just
of
10
Good
minutes.
Burger.
Okay,
On loop.
10 minutes of
it's-
Good Burger plus now he's a turkey. So
Oh, it should be noted, he's been to Turkey for probably 45 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
I've just
But I
gotten
mean,
used to it now.
he was a frog in the past, and then he was like
I was a creepy Cupid.
creepy
Yeah.
Cupid. Yeah.
Old creepy Cupid. Yeah, it was like a J-pop lady. I don't know. Yeah.
Speaking of creepy,
Speaking of
I don't know which one to go for with that.
I
I was leaving
don't
it up to
either.
you.
Speaking of creepy, Sony's creeping into bed with Epic and investing $250 million into the company.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Nailed it.
I don't
Smart
know.
move.
I think it is a smart move. Epic is not a publicly traded company, right?
No. Tim Sweeney is like
The majority shareholder.
Yeah, majority shareholder. Tencent has a little bit.
I don't know,
Sony
but-
has now got a little bit.
And now Sony has come out and said that this does not mean that for their PC initiative that they're going exclusive to Epic Game Store. Like they've come out and
I
said
don't
that,
believe
which
that.
is
I mean, well, the first game that they're even really putting out is on Steam. So
yeah.
No, I know, but I don't believe that that's gonna be the way it is forever.
Yeah,
I'm
this is a lot of money to put into Epic for it to
Yeah.
like for them to be like, we don't really care about Epic's long-term success. Like,
I'm just curious what Sony gets out of it. Because I mean, Epic is incredibly profitable right now.
they probably get like, hey, if you want to show your game running on Unreal 5 and it's multi-platform, you show it on the PS5.
Well, they also,
Or something.
I think more importantly than that, they get a seat at the table in terms of Epic's business decisions. So they get some involvement in the future of things like Fortnite, and like they get to have some say in decisions that are made around that game. And like they say things about platform exclusivity, but this means that they can potentially find ways to make the PlayStation the best place to play Fortnite, for example. And so I think that they get that kind of stuff long term, where they have an ability to influence the direction that Epic takes with different things. And I think, frankly, for them, having an investment in the company that makes Unreal is probably valuable because it gives them the ability to hook their developers up in a way with the actual engine developers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Is meaningful. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think that they're going to jump to only releasing games on the Epic Store, but I do think eventually it makes sense for Sony if they're reading the tea leaves appropriately. I think if you look at Microsoft's success with Game Pass, I think my feeling is, I don't see a ton of numbers on it, but my feeling is a large part of that success and their improved public image comes from the fact that you can get their games on PC and that there is a PC Game Pass. And so I don't think that means that every Sony exclusive is going to come to PC within the next 2 or 3 years, but I think it makes sense for them to look at it and say, well, maybe, we said this last time, but maybe there won't be a PS6. And what does that stable of first party studios look like without a console? And so this feels like a long-term investment to me of
right.
If they're going to help guide that service and that's store.
Totally fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could see, I was thinking of it like, what does Sony get out of this from a business perspective? But if you're thinking about it from an architectural way in a long view, that can make sense, especially if we're looking at PS6 territory and like Sony has some kind of fortune telling, crystal ball look into Epic's future, and are like, oh, Epic is going to be the next streaming platform. And like they can kind of consolidate their engineers from PS Now, from Gaikai into that, and they can make some kind of super service. Totally.
And I think at the end of the day, too, I mean, they're going to make some money out of it. And 250 million is not an insignificant amount of money to a company like Sony, but it's also not. It's not
gross. It's not insane.
It's not like, what are you doing? You're breaking the bank this way.
There was something I saw going around the other day where Sony is the most cash-rich Japanese company at the moment. So
makes,
I think they've got money to spend.
That's really interesting because for a long time they weren't. Because like the only part of Sony that was doing well was the gaming division.
Yeah, but Kazurai, he ridge raced his way to the top.
Yeah. I mean, they've had so many improvements with a lot of their other
vanquish the giant enemy crab.
And I think to some extent, like, it just makes sense for them to have an investment into a PC platform in some way. If you think about it, Microsoft is the PC platform, really. So like Microsoft is
kind of bad at it. Like just like not like Xbox, but like I don't know. Windows is kind of a mess.
I don't know. I mean,
the interface, not like
updates and things, and
but it's the same thing about computers on PlayStation.
I mean,
OpenGL is good.
I don't know. You download a Windows update and it bricks your computer. I guess that happens.
I guess I've never
occasionally, but
that never has happened to me. So those issues all kind of look like. Yeah, I guess all hardware, all software.
Yeah,
hardware
it's all a mess. It's all
to be
mess.
fair,
I'm not, I play on PC a lot. I'm not saying like, oh, PC is bad. No. It's just, to be fair, Windows is a mess.
Sony has released things that have bricked PS4s, so and PS3s for that matter,
and
so.
I mean, Apple is also a mess, and Linux is only not a mess if you know how to use Linux in a way that isn't messy.
Even then, it's still
to most people, it looks like a mess. So computers are kind of a mess in some ways.
Linux is super stable, but no one supports it.
And Linux, what I'm getting at more is like the user experience in Linux is a mess. It's not a mess if you know how to use it and if you're literate in it. But if you hand Linux to someone who doesn't really know what they're doing, it's definitely
we can have a long talk about this, but I'm gonna say let's move on because like Ubuntu is great and easy.
I will say
2021. You're the Linux stuff.
I guess what I'm trying to say is if I booted up Linux right now, I wouldn't know what to do, and I know that
if you booted up Ubuntu, you'd be like, oh, this looks like Mac, but also kind of Windows.
Well, yeah, sure. There are distributions for sure that are more intuitive, but
sure. But if you just started up Debian, and we're just like, what?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, you get a Pop OS because I'm a gamer.
And in any case, it doesn't matter because you can't really play games on it. So
I've got some YouTube videos for you.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. That's a mess. That is the definition of a mess.
It is.
Anyways, it'll be cool to see what happens with Sony and Epic.
The Windows Store is a fucking God damn it. The Windows Store.
I think, but.
It's not good. I think you have a unique hatred for it based on specific use cases that you utilize.
So even outside of that, like sometimes like things just won't install, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why aren't you installing?
And then you have to set your CPU priority to high.
Well, I think I've got this new CPU, so it's not an issue. But
I think because I've had such unique, awful experiences with the Epic Game Store, I'm kind of like, they both suck. Steam is good.
I've never had issues with the Epic Game Store. I think there are like bad design things which have kind of improved a bit. Like I think the filtering is not great, but
my point is
the Windows Store is fundamentally flawed.
But my point is I've never had issues with the Windows Store. So I'm just saying I think we both had unique experiences because I don't know how anyone could not have issues with Epic too.
I don't know how anyone doesn't have issues with the Windows Store.
And I respect that.
I'm bloating it up now, and I just hate looking at it.
But you know what? Ugly. Maybe there's an event on July 23rd where they're going to announce some changes to the Windows Store.
Nope.
I don't know what event you might be talking about. So if we want to talk about Xbox, July 23rd is going to be, is it Inside Xbox? Is that what it is? Or is it a different thing? They're going to showcase first party and like more Xbox One Series X, Xbox Series X stuff, and like show new games. Halo is going to be there.
The more I think about it, the more I don't think there's a way they can make me interested in Halo.
If
I hope I eat those words, but yeah.
What if it's Halo but set in 1940s New York?
What does that look like?
I don't know, but I kind of want to play that.
Master Chief in New York.
Mafia Definitive Edition.
Exactly, but with Master Chief and Nolan North still.
I'm sure you could.
I'm Chiefin over here.
God.
Jesus Christ!
Again, I'd play it.
No, I
Master
think
Chief with a New York accent.
I think if it turned out that the new Halo was just the original Prey 2, that would be the thing that could get me interested in it.
I really don't know what that game's gonna be. I said this on Twitter because Sam was asking what would it take to get you people excited about the new Xbox, and like I can't recapture what made Halo special for me, because that was all night LAN parties at my friend's house with like 12 to 16 people playing like custom Forge map stuff. That was what made Halo great. And I had fun playing co-op, but I did that once, and then I was like, okay, yeah, we're done with that. Now let's kill each other in co-op or in multiplayer.
The Halo experience, in my opinion, like I'm not really into Halo. I've played some of it. It never really stuck with me, but it seemed like the college dorm game. Like it's the game that you would play co-op with your buddy. You'd invite him over or him or her over and play through it, and then you would sit around and play like Blood Gulch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that from a single player perspective, from a campaign perspective, or, co-op, whatever, the thing that I originally was like, well, it needs to be service gamey, and it needs to have like some kind of like progression mechanic. And I'm starting to think maybe more what I would be interested in seeing is a game that is like the promise of a Far Cry, but not the way that Far Cry is now, like the promise of Far Cry 2, but done really, really well on a huge scale of like you have the whole game takes place on one contiguous wide open map,
and you have malaria.
Well,
space malaria,
and you have to move around that map using different tools and different weapons and stuff, and it's not necessarily an open world game in the sense of having a bunch of checkboxes to check off, but it's a huge open space that feels contiguous in a way that the old games kind of did, but really kind of realizes that concept. I think that could be like if it's like the kind of thing where you're on a ring world, you're on a Halo again, and you can look up and you could actually walk across the whole thing to get to the thing on the other side that you can see above you.
Why did the Master Chief cross the Halo?
Yeah,
the other side.
So you basically want like a mix between No Man's Sky and Just Cause 2.
Sort of.
Oh
to
my
an extent.
God.
Yeah. I mean, no, really. I think like,
oh my God. I want that.
I think
I would 100% play that.
I think if you could grab like a Banshee and those are the flying things, I think.
Yeah.
And like fly it across the ring up, that would be like super fucking cool. And
if
like
you could grappling hook to a propane tank and shoot the top off and then ride that to the other side
and tether it to like 20 people behind you.
You just 20 grunts tethered to a propane tank that shoots into the air.
It's shooting out confetti.
And then they all explode in confetti. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that could, if it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, Chief, we got the coordinates, we need to go here. But instead of it being like, then you get a cutscene. It's like, no, then you go there, and along the way, it's really interesting kind of stuff.
I can't believe you pitched Halo Infinite as Far Cry 2-esque.
Far Cry 2's better than most Halo games.
Oh, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just. I did not. That is not where I expected that to ever go.
Get
Like,
that fire tech in it. Burn down the whole ring.
I am truly a Idle Thumbs devotee.
That is. Oh, that reminds me of something I was going to send Alex at the beginning of the podcast, but I got sidetracked. Anyway.
All right. We'll get there. But either way, I don't. Back to the question of what would make you interested in an Xbox.
Fable, baby. Fable 4.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I don't think there's anything yet which has made me think I need to buy that box because I have a PC.
Nothing will make me buy an Xbox.
Because
unless they're like, we'll give you $1 million to buy an Xbox. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Anything less, I'll be like, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm anticipating building a pretty beefy PC in the next 6 months, and there's nothing that would come to the Xbox Series X, like the physical box, that I probably wouldn't be able to do with that PC.
Yeah.
So I just don't see a reason to get it. But I think that's also Microsoft knows that because they're focusing so much on services this gen.
Yeah, they've got to. I mean,
between Game Pass and xCloud and all that kind of stuff. That I think.
Yeah, they're
probably fine with it.
They're not.
They don't care.
Trying to force you to buy an Xbox.
Yeah. I think the thing that could happen the next and the problem is going to be shit like Epic exclusivity, unfortunately. But I think I could imagine a world where my computer's I'm ready to do a build, ready to upgrade a processor. I just bought a video card, but I'm ready to I need a new motherboard, need a new processor,
DDR5 RAM,
power unit or power supply unit. And maybe even my case is really old. So I look at, a $2,000 build or something that's extremely high end, but I have a fairly high end computer now. If we ever hit a point where it's or I could get a pretty comparable experience by putting an Xbox on my desk and plugging a mouse and keyboard in, and I could still plug in a HOTAS or something to it to be able to play Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's when I think the whole Xbox idea, if it starts to really lean in the direction of this is a high powered gaming PC and it's in this box, we just call it an Xbox. I could see that being a compelling option the next time I look to
a Steam machine.
Basically, yes, that's kind of what I'm describing. But I don't know if that's. I think the only way that works is if it ends up just fully running Windows as an option. You can run the Xbox or you can boot to Windows.
Yeah, well, especially with how many resources are out there for building a gaming PC.
Oh, tons at this point.
Yeah, if you saw that and they're like, oh, this is basically a gaming PC in a box, but it didn't run Windows, then honestly, what would the point even really be?
That's kind of what it is, though.
Right now, it is that.
To right now,
right.
Yeah. For me, that sounds compelling, but also I'm doing so many other things with my PC that
you
I can't rely on
outside. You're not solely gaming on your PC.
Exactly.
I am at a point where if a box like that ran Windows and I could get really solid, and it was a really solid gaming PC in a small box like that for a good amount of money, that lets me do all that stuff, then that's fine with me. That's kind of all I need at this point.
Get a Corsair One.
Yeah, I just tend
to expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's a cost thing. Because I guess what I'm getting at is the kind of power that it sounds like the Series X is supposed to pump out, and the assumption that it's not going to cost more than $500 or $600 because it can't. There's no way. In fact, it sounds like it's on the pretty low end of that scale and probably below those numbers. I mean, if you can play the new Halo in 4K on that thing and it runs at a decent frame rate, that's a strong machine for an affordable price. So if they could just go the extra few steps, that might be more compelling to me than spending $1,500, $2,000 on a new gaming computer.
Yeah. And to clarify, if I was not going to be building a new beefy PC, then I could totally see like having a dedicated like
and
gaming machine, which is an Xbox.
The thing we talk about is that they're fine with that. They don't. I mean, they would like for you to have a Game Pass subscription. That is the thing they want you to do, is either buy their software or get a Game Pass subscription.
I've got this subscription that I'm not even using because I'm not even playing any of the games on there. I still need to finish Ori, but I just I rarely play anything on there.
I recently canceled mine until stuff comes out that I care about.
Yeah. So what would be something you'd care about from them? Like any like current like existing IP or like a style of game that you'd like to see something. I think Forza 8, is it Forza 8 or Forza 9 next? Because it'll be a regular motorsport next, I think.
Would be 8,
right?
I think, because the last one was 7.
Yeah, I think it would be 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even.
For me, it's Fable, like Fable 4. It's not Lionhead, but like I want to see. I'd like to see them kind of return more to like the Fable 1 style of thing. Like you obviously do a more modern take on it, but like that kind of like humor and style and attitude.
I mean, they have multiple studios that I think could knock a Fable game out of the park at this point. Well,
supposedly it's Playground, so.
Oh yeah,
sure.
Playground could be good.
And they were that's the rumor. They like staffed up to do like an RPG. Sounded like.
And no, I'd be super excited for a new Fable. I think though, to me, the most exciting thing is they've been building experiences that are different scopes. Like part of the initiative for a lot of this comes from Josh Sawyer, who's one of the leads at Obsidian. And he talks about this a little bit on his streams. But like part of the point of them buying up the wide range of studios that they did was to provide lots of different scales of experiences. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get a Fable that is this huge, that'll probably be a huge RPG, but then you can also get like smaller, more, bite-sized, you finish it in an afternoon kind of things.
Or Cupheads.
Yeah. And so it sounds like what I'm excited for is to see more of those smaller experiences, because it sounds like what they want to do. Like Game Pass is a great service in terms of the amount of games they bring to it. But the thing is that there's not that many Microsoft game releases. So it's like you only get a new big thing every 3 or 4 months to play. That is like one of their first party games. And it sounds like what they want to do is make it so that actually every month there's something to play. Some months it might be a Crackdown 3, and some months it might be a Fable, and some months it might be an Ori, but like there's a wider range of experiences available. So I'm excited to see more of that, because I think it would be awesome to have like, oh, this is the new Game Pass game, the new Microsoft game. I'm going to check it out for this weekend kind of thing.
I think thinking more about it, the thing that would make me interested to resubscribe and re-up is if like they really, really court the third-party developers for Game Pass. Like they have started, like you have all the Final Fantasies and stuff coming there, and I think that's cool. Yeah, like if they did it where, now all of the Persona games are on there, I'd be like, hell yeah. Or, like similar stuff, just where they're getting the third parties into that, and it's just like, yeah, this is kind of like the Apple Arcade of, like Apple Arcade has done some cool stuff. They haven't really done much with third parties, but yeah, they're constantly adding stuff, and sometimes you're like, oh, I'm just gonna try this just to see what it is, like you would at a Blockbuster Video.
And like it's kind of been that since the start. Like they've had a lot of it. The thing for me that is a struggle with that stuff is those games come and go. Exactly. So like there was a period where Devil May Cry 5 was on the service, and I was like, I think it was DMC 5 was on the service, and I was like, oh, I gotta play that. I wanted to play that game. I need to play it, and I never got around to it, and then it was gone. And if I had played halfway through it, and then it left, and it was like, well, fuck. Now I can either spend 40, 50, whatever the price would have been at the time, dollars to keep playing it and play the second half because I was a doofus and didn't finish it before I left, or I can just say, well, whatever. That part of
the second half isn't great.
Well, either way, that part of the service, the third party thing, kind of is. It's why I'm wary of actually like spending time with third party games there.
I agree. How about you, Allyson? What's something they could bring to Game Pass that would just make you go, hell yeah?
Oh, that's a good question.
Viva Pinata.
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, if they
That's
did
not
like
bad.
a lot of kind of retro titles and indie titles, like it's I'm not as interested in a lot of the kind of big titles that they have on Game Pass. Like they're like, I'm not interested, but it hasn't been enough for me to go, wow, I should really get an Xbox, or I should really, commit to getting a better PC to be able to handle it. But
Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door exclusively on Xbox Game Pass.
No, and also the next Playdead game.
We need to say Viva Pinata is on Game Pass because it's part of the Rare Replay collection.
New Viva Pinata. That's what I meant. Viva Pinata.
Okay. And it's just like 4K drugs.
Wait a minute. Bug Snacks. Bug Snacks is now a Game Pass exclusive.
Time to buy an Xbox Series X.
If I was Sony, I'd be pissed.
If I was Sony, I'd get the fuck over with my $250 million.
Like honestly, if it was like Bug Snacks is like that's enough to make me almost buy that PlayStation 5 outright. Is like, all right, let's buy this $500 box so that I can play.
It's not exclusive though, so you're lucky there. But I think Bug Snacks is fixing to be the next Untitled Goose Game, just with the zeitgeist. We'll see. But
so many puns.
Yep. I think it has that potential.
Potential.
Fuck.
Okay.
That'll do it for me. I'm gonna leave the podcast.
Well, speaking of potential, the Magnum era continues. We now know what Andy McNamara is doing. He is on to EA to be their communications director. Like communications and strategy director, something like that. I don't know. That makes sense. Go from editor-in-chief of one of the longest running institutions in games journalism to doing the communications for a big game developer. That makes perfect sense.
It's
sorry,
weird. No, go for it, Pat.
This is one of those moves that's like, I need to be very clear. No media person owes you anything, and they should do with their career what is the best move for them and their families if they have a family. So this is in no way meant as like picking on Andy or anything. I'm sure that I would consider the same move if it made sense. This is one of those moves where I'm like, okay, see ya. Where it's kind of like,
well, I mean, yeah, he's not really going to be,
bye, dude.
Front facing,
and that's fine for him. I mean, it's great for his career if it's an upward move, but it's also kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. And it's in some ways, I'm glad that like I've always respected him a lot, but I'm glad that I wasn't like if Jeff Gerstmann left Giant Bomb to go be the communications director at EA, I'd be bummed. We'll say, that would suck. But it's good for him. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, for me, it kind of has the same weight of when Reggie moved to the board of directors or whatever for GameStop, and it's like, this is it's someone I respect and who I think could steer a ship, a potentially sinking ship the right way, but I don't know if they will be able to. Like, I would hope that Andy McNamara can kind of make some changes to EA for the positive.
Well, I think the thing that is really kind of comes across is you can't retire from games journalism,
right?
Like you can leave games journalism, but it's not like a thing you do until you're 65 or 70 whenever you can retire. It's something you do for a while and then you get out because it's not going to support your later years.
And doing it for a while, he's been a Game Informer, or he was a Game Informer forever. But at the same time, it's like, it's not. It's something that's really, he was basically like as high up as you could probably get in games journalism. He was a Game Informer longer than I had been alive. Like, and it's like I don't know if there's anywhere like really any place he could really go in games journalism that wouldn't be like a lateral move.
He he had been there so long. That's that's uncharacteristic for like America, like American jobs in general. Like,
Yep.
Most like these days, most people like move around, jump companies. He was there for 29 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I like I said, I super respect. And for what it's worth, he also was a little more tempered about like how he talked about his new opportunity and where he was going. Sometimes people leave an outlet and they're like, you know, oh, I'm so excited. You're going to be hearing a lot more from me, and don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I may be leaving this outlet, but my next move is going to be awesome. And then it's like, you know, they go to engineer a podcast for the WWE. Like, which is
who are
like,
you talking about there?
I don't know.
Like,
that's,
I mean,
that's pretty ambiguous, but
awesome for that person. I'm not actually trying to throw shade at Dan Reichert. Like, it's great for him that he gets to do that. But to be clear, your relationship with the fan base that you've built is different now. It is not the same thing. You are not on shows.
Now they give you money directly on Twitch.
Right. And I think that, to be clear, I think that you would also agree with this, that games journalists don't necessarily owe their fan base
not at all.
But at the same time, like, it is nice if you could kind of temper expectations and be like,
that's what I'm saying.
FYI,
it's
don't like hype your people up. It's like, oh yeah, this is going to be like the best move for all of us when
I mean,
all that matters is the best move for you. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
it seems like there's one of two ways they go. It's that way that you're talking about, where they end up somewhere else and in the background and you never hear from them again, or Patreon.
Yeah. I mean, or like, I don't know. I'm a little bit spoiled because my favorite people in video games sort of not truly lost, but sort of either moved or whatever from their outlets. And I'm kind of talking about like Patrick Klepek and Austin Walker and Rob Zachney and Danielle Riendeau, and then they ended up making a thing that was all them. So sometimes you get the dream team scenarios where like people coalesce into something amazing too, whether it's at an outlet or on Patreon. But and that's definitely what I'm sort of talking about too, Allyson, is like, it's okay if it's like, this is an exciting thing for me and y'all need to deal with that. Like I think Heather Alexandra did such a great job of tempering it when she was leaving Kotaku, of saying like, hey, you'll hear from me from time to time. I'm not leaving games, but I'm leaving games media, and I'm super excited about my next move. And then she went to Double Fine, which is like an incredible fit. And it felt like it was a really feel good transition all around. I felt like,
I think there's ways to do it, even if you're leaving games media and it's like, you're not going to hear as much from me, but you know, share how excited you are as well.
Yeah.
I think the reason that the Dan thing comes to mind, and again, I like Dan a lot, so I'm not trying to pick on him, but the reason the Dan thing comes to mind is like, even as someone who has my interest in wrestling wanes more and more every year, but when it felt like there's like, this is so, you know, follow me, come listen to my podcast at the WWE. I'm not gonna fucking do that.
He's just producing too, like.
Oh yeah, no, and I like the New Day and stuff, but I'm not gonna listen to that podcast. Like, I'm really happy for him to get to do a thing that he's super passionate about and that he loves, but there's definitely a like, no, that's not really how this is gonna go.
Yeah, like I'm happy that he's doing something that he loves, but at the same time, I personally have even much less interest in wrestling than you do, and so I'm just like, I don't even know where to start with that. So
well, hopefully the McNamara goes well at EA.
Yes.
Hopefully he makes some better choices as director of strategy or whatever his title is, because their communications have been questionable.
Yeah, EA's communications, like, they need all the help they can get, to be honest.
Like, he's a good dude. So
do you remember the Battlefield onesie?
Oh God. Don't even.
Lord.
Do you remember the part where they put out a GIF of someone riding a horse and a person behind them with a flamethrower shooting it, and like, it was like, ha ha ha, so funny, and it's like, well, actually, like, flamethrowers melt people's entire bodies and were used in that war to horrific effect, and you're supposed to be taking the subject matter seriously. Like,
EA's done some pretty questionable stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and like, again, like, you have all the like negative perception of EA by pretty much everybody, so there's really no like he's got his work cut out for him at EA.
I think they're getting better. Like that, regardless of how nothing of a presentation EA Play was, the video package around The Sims was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who is well documented as finding that stuff sometimes to be kind of pandery. And I thought that was a really, really great video. They generally, like, I think Greg Miller is a really personable guy. And so it was generally like a pretty appealing, like him delivering a lot of that messaging was appealing, even if the messaging was kind of boring. So I think, and a lot of their stuff around like Apex and Respawn has been pretty positive from a messaging perspective. So I do think that they're improving. And they did learn from the Battlefield 1 garbage with Battlefield 5. They kept that messaging and marketing very respectful and like aware of their subject matter. So I think they're getting better, but also as a general communication strategy, they could, there's still a lot of room for them to improve, and also for them to improve in ways of like, they announced a Star Wars game that you can play with a HOTAS and sit in the cockpit in VR. And I now am barely excited for it because of all of the stuff they've said about it since announcing it, which is like,
how
do you fuck that up?
Yeah, especially for Cat. Like that should be like your dream game.
Yeah, how do you fuck that up? I'm still going to play it and I'm still excited about it.
Right,
but it's
but like
just in terms of not even necessarily in like they've done super bad messaging. It's more just like they just could be better because it's either or bad.
Well, you can now direct all requests for Skate 5 to Andy McNamara.
Oh man, I don't envy him for that.
Speaking of questionable messaging, there was a Nintendo Treehouse video today or yesterday rather.
What's questionable about that?
The messaging beforehand where they said, Way Forward is going to show their new game. And that was like 2 days before something. And then a day before they had to be like, it's a third party. It's not Nintendo title. Cause everyone's like, are they making a Zelda game or is it a Metroid thing? What are they doing? Yeah. Cause they teased Metroid in that first trailer for Paper Mario. And they'll be like, oh God, no, it's not us. It's something else.
I don't understand why that game was in that stream.
That too is like they attach it to Paper Mario, and then they're like if it was like a Mario and Luigi game, if they were like, Way Forward's making a Mario and Luigi RPG.
Oh yeah,
and like that's gonna be like the RPG because like there's some like Paper Mario Origami is not a real RPG, blah blah blah. Whatever your opinion on that is, that would be like a different style of game a little bit, but no, they're making a Bakugan game,
and it looks not very good.
Yeah.
Like I only watched about 2 minutes of it, but it looked like it was a loop of the same thing happening, and I had to keep going like, is this just a GIF or is it actual foot? And it was just like a battle was moving very slowly, and people were like running around, and then it would go to a very slow attack animation that locked the camera and then go back to people running around. I mean, it looked, respect to Way Forward, video games are really hard. I could never do it, but that game did not look like one I want to play.
No. And it was interesting because I like Alex and I were both watching it live, and we both kind of were like, oh, and then dropped off. And I'm pretty sure that happened for so many people where they just went from like watching to no. And I get that Nintendo can't exactly go, hey, lower your expectations. This isn't going to be good. But at the same time, like,
throw them directly under the bus.
This is third party, guys. This is third party because people are
attach it to Paper Mario.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. That's weird.
They must have another direct planned for this year. I mean, when does that thing come out? The Bakugan
next week. Oh, that I don't know. Let's see.
I don't think
November.
Oh.
So, I mean, maybe they just don't have another direct planned before then, which seems wild.
Well, that's
or
not
maybe
even.
They have another direct.
That's not even a Nintendo game. That's a
no, but they show third party stuff.
No, yeah, but I mean, like
maybe Treehouse is
Paper Mario
it?
Is like the last thing they have announced, like a date for.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at more too, like maybe they signed a co-marketing deal with Way Forward.
Sure, but
yeah, I'm sure that's probably what it is. Like they logistically have to, but at the same time, like
they have to show it somewhere.
Yeah, but that doesn't look like a holiday game. Where's like, I mean, supposedly they've got the Mario stuff still, the anniversary stuff.
Were they the remakes?
Yeah.
Were they the studio, or was it Nintendo that there was rumors that they were having a hard time transitioning to the work from home?
I don't know if there probably were, but I would totally believe it as like a Japanese company. There have been tons of reports of Japanese companies struggling with that, and Nintendo being infamously uptight about security and like leaks and things like that, like not wanting people to take like work computers home or have that information at home. I can imagine being
so you just kind of wonder maybe
difficult
if
to work with.
The problem is that all of their cycles got pushed, a couple months.
Yeah, maybe.
And
but things here, like we were on lockdown for or a state of emergency for like a month and a half, and then we're like, there have been cases in Tokyo, but like Kyoto, where Nintendo's headquarters is, mostly fine at this point. Like, it's still being careful, but like there's nothing like the US. Like
right.
Things shut down later and then opened up much quicker.
Nowhere is like the US.
No.
Yeah.
USA number one
in fucking it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So but I could see it totally having an impact, like delaying things, but like it's strange how little is out there about like the rest of the year. But there's time. Like the Paper Mario doesn't need to come out and then immediately have to say, and here's what's coming in November or October.
I don't know if I mean, you want to say no, but as someone who is not, and maybe there aren't a lot of people like me, but as someone who is not super into Paper Mario, and while it sounds like that stream makes it sound like it's a lot better than Sticker Star and maybe will be pretty cool, the stuff that came out of it has me kind of like, maybe I'll play it at some point, but I'm not going to pick it up next week.
Sure.
There's nothing on the Switch calendar that I have any interest in at all. Aside from Breath of the Wild 2, but that's like, who knows?
Probably next year.
Yeah. So there's a very real, I bought Xenoblade Chronicles, but I kind of regret it.
Yeah.
So like
Shin Megami Tensei 5.
There's a very real possibility that there will not be a single Nintendo game this year that I purchase and enjoy, which would be fucking wild. I don't know. I kind of feel like they do need to have more stuff on the calendar.
They need stuff on the calendar, but like I doubt there will be anything coming like in August. So I don't know that they need to be out there right away being like, and here's what's coming 6 months from now, 5 months from now. It'd be nice to know, like, and have something to look forward to. But
yeah, I guess it's from generally I agree, actually, like on the larger scale of just video games. I mean, we just had a recent conversation about this in our chat, but like generally I agree that I don't care if they announce. I would rather they announce games like a month before they come out. That would be awesome. Yeah. But I would say I don't think that I don't think anybody on this podcast is saying this, but I don't think that as a nation of gamers, we can't say, wow, Microsoft only has one exclusive this year. That's pretty shitty. I can't believe it. No wonder they suck. And then like Nintendo doesn't get a pass for that. Like they're doing kind of the same thing this year, and it's wild. But it's also a unique year, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it's hard to say.
Paper Mario does look good.
I'm very excited about it. Well, okay, very excited. I hope it's good. Yeah. And this, to be clear, the stream didn't make me go, I'm a little bit it didn't make me more nervous about it. It made me go, okay, this could be good.
It sounds like there was some scuttlebutt before the stream. I only saw tweets from Jeff Grubb, but I don't know if there were other people talking about it. That made it sound like maybe you should temper your expectations. And it sounds like the stream kind of allayed some of those fears. So
yeah, I think that the thing that people have always like, especially since even as early as like Super Paper Mario, like there's the Paper Mario discourse, as it were, has been a lot of to what extent is this an RPG? And I think that from what I saw, a lot of the discourse around Origami King was since it doesn't look like there's any sort of like experience points, to what extent is this also an RPG? I think that the stream kind of hinted at some things that I think would allay some of those fears, where it looks like a lot of the experience is, instead of experience, there's a lot more of a monetary system in place. So you can upgrade Mario, but you need to buy those accessories, but you also get more currency than you might otherwise get in another Paper Mario game. But also you can use the currency in battle to buy yourself more time and to get help and things like that. So it looks like it's an interesting system, but I do think that I think there's a lot of people where they want the new Paper Mario to be Thousand Year Door Part 2. And there will be an element of disappointment in any Paper Mario game that's not kind of that exact same formula, which I get because you guys all know that I love Thousand Year Door.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's certainly the one that looks most interesting to me too.
But at the same time, like, Nintendo is not going to make it directly that same formula. So I think that there's an element of like, you'll always have to temper expectations to a small extent because of what people want is not what Nintendo wants to make.
I guess I don't understand why. I mean, if it's just because creatively they're not interested in making that, then I can respect that for sure. But it's weird to me that like there's been multiple Paper Mario games since then, and every time it seems like the fan base is like, "Yo, but Thousand Year Door though." So it's strange to me that they seem so averse to doing.
And
again,
they shut down the studio that makes like that made the Mario and Luigi games that were like, oh, these games are too similar, so we're going to shut down one of the studios, and then they're going to stop making that kind of game.
It's really weird to me, because I initially was like, oh, new Paper Mario, those are RPGs, because the last one that I knew anything about at all was Thousand Year Door, and that the sticker splash one wasn't received well. So I was kind of like, oh, this will be cool. It's going to be like an action RPG. And I would love to play a Nintendo made action RPG, even though I don't have a huge affinity for Mario. But like seeing what it seems like this new Paper Mario is definitely made me less interested in it. But I'm also not saying that means it's bad. That's just, I'm already not their target. So it's fine. But it's strange to me that they seem so averse to making that when that's the one everybody really likes.
Yeah,
I just think that like Nintendo in general is never going to be like, okay, we had success with this, let's do it again. Like they always want to do innovation for better or for worse.
I don't know.
Often for worse. I mean, not always, but like
I
for
feel
a lot
like,
of their properties, yeah.
I feel like they're I guess it just depends on what it is. Like Zelda I guess Skyward Sword was certainly different and not great, but it feels like they always make
Skyward Sword.
I do too. It feels like they always make there's always like the core of the thing. Like Mario Odyssey is still a game where you run around and jump on stuff and it feels really good. And that's like, the Mario games are about running around and jumping on stuff. And so it's just interesting to me with Paper Mario. It seems like there isn't that like, this is the thing you do in these games, you know? It's like, it changes so much and it doesn't seem like it's really changed for the better in a while.
The thing that's interesting though about Paper Mario is that I don't think that's necessarily gameplay related. I think that the thing that people really connect to with it is less about the actual RPG gameplay, which I think is good, but what people connect to are the characters and the story and the writing and the humor. And so is like maybe a little bit of a harder kind of through line to get perfect. And because the through line is less of like, oh, you jump on thing and it feels good. It's more of like, oh, the writing's really funny and the situations are funny and there's fun characters and it's a whole vibe rather than
And I think that's part of probably from the outside looking in why maybe I have that misconception, because I don't really have an affinity for Mario characters. Like I get why people like them, but I also am not like if Mario Odyssey was instead like some kind of, I don't know,
X.
Honestly, sure. I would probably like it more if it was like some different thing that played that well.
I don't think it's necessarily because it's Mario, but I think that it's like the general vibe of specifically Paper Mario, you know, because before Paper Mario, like I played Mario games and liked them, but I wasn't necessarily like, oh, I am so attached to specifically Mario as a character. When I say characters, I mean less like, oh, this is Mario, and more of like, there are the side characters that you meet, and there's all the fun, like they always have like a new kind of interesting villains that you meet. And there's just like, there's a lot of variety of characters that I don't know if you always get in a Mario game.
And maybe I just haven't seen enough of that too.
So when in like Color Splash, they have just Toads, you're like, okay.
Oops, just Toads.
Oops, all Toads. Oops, all Toads. But like, you know, it's, and I mean, or even with the Mario characters, they add a lot of kind of flavor to them. Specifically, like not to Mario specifically, but like to Luigi, absolutely in Thousand Year Door, like his writing is so funny and good that you're just like, okay, it's, I think there's, it could easily be a game that's not necessarily Mario, but I think that Mario, it being the game it comes from, actually that helps it, because there is some level of kind of self-referential humor.
And I've mostly seen writing from the trailers, so maybe that doesn't convey the like depth of how different and weird it is.
That line, be creased and born again.
Yes, that's very funny.
What does Peach say? The most hard ass line to ever come out of a video game.
It's really good.
What was the one that we were like, both Alex and I were obsessing over yesterday?
Shelvation,
yeah. Like, have you come to seek Shelvation?
I hope the new one is super good.
All of this speaks to the fact that y'all being all gamers ever, should always be super thankful for amazing localization.
Yes,
yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Like,
no arguments here.
There was a really good video that came out yesterday from Did You Know Gaming? With their YouTube channel, which I'm generally a pretty big fan of. And they did this whole thing called How Pokemon Was Changed Around the World. And they talked directly about like the localization process from Japanese to English, and like the actual people behind the scenes. Like you had, I can't remember his name right now, but there was a Canadian dude who did the localization like pretty much single-handedly, and he's the one who kind of instilled all the humor and all of the like jokes and references and stuff that now you might recognize. And from that, like it almost started its own whole lore that like continued, which is directly because of good localization, and that was in the 90s. So
well, like, I mean, I think that like I think that with with like especially translation, there's a lot of misconception that it's just, you know, the language and you're translating directly, but you have there's a real art to good localization and to good to the point where you don't need to just know the language, but you should also be a good writer in your own right.
Yeah, because it's not just directly translating exactly what it says, because sometimes that doesn't work.
Yeah, I would heavily recommend that video to our listeners. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's called How Pokemon Was Changed Around the World. It's really good.
Well, we once again rolled right over my amazing segue that I had about how Nintendo they sometimes they strike gold and then they just like leave it. They're just like, nope, toss it away, and then they move on to the next thing. But you know what studio doesn't do that? Ubisoft.
Well,
They're back with the 6th Far Cry game. That's right.
6th?
Number 6.
You sure about that?
There have only been 6 Far Cry games. Well, there have only been 5, but there's about to be a 6th.
Yeah, there's definitely only been 5. That's for sure.
Definitely only been 5 Far Cry games. This is going to be the 6th.
So what culturally insensitive take on a location do you think they're going to shoot for this time?
Well, if it's Giancarlo Esposito, I'm assuming they're going like Central America.
Great.
Right? Yeah, the Latinx community has not been particularly happy about the leaks.
I wonder if you'll fight a cartel.
It seems like people are thinking that it's
like a
prequel to Far Cry 3.
Yeah, it's like
and
a
Voss is somehow
story
involved, which is
so then that implies that the Far Cry games actually exist in the same like universe.
Well, it implies that this one exists in the same universe as Far Cry 3.
That's so weird.
What about Far Cry Primal? That might be in the same universe. Wasn't it the same map?
It was the same map as Far Cry 4.
I mean, all of them except like New Dawn, or is like okay, like, or is it? Yeah, New Dawn was the like expansion or like the smaller one, right?
Based on 2020.
So is Blood Dragon part of it?
But that's like a. Yeah, no, that's the same universe. Except take place in the 80s. That's when that one's in the 80s. So
if you told me all of the shit that happened in Far Cry 3, 4, and 5 is all happening in the same world, I would definitely like if you told me that like in America, in a state, there's like just basically a place, a large county where a cult took over, I'd be like, that sounds ridiculous. But based on the 2020 we've been having, maybe it's not so crazy to think that all of that stuff happens in the same world.
The Rajneeshis kind of did it in the 80s in Oregon. They took over like a large part of Oregon. It wasn't like a military
militia,
militia takeover, but the cults, they can do wild stuff. The Wild Country on Netflix has the story of that.
True. Yeah, I guess you're right. Far Cry has always been realistic. So
yeah, realistic.
There's nothing exaggerated in Far Cry. No.
I too hear Skrillex when I smoke weed.
When you burn weed in the fields.
Yeah, when I burn weed around me.
I too constantly get attacked by cougars and birds.
And just
I've been playing a lot of Ark.
Yeah. Well, so Far Cry 6, Giancarlo Esposito is the villain. Who knows what on Sunday, the 13th, they're going to be doing their Ubisoft Way Forward. Wait, is that what it's called? Way Forward?
Really?
Ubisoft Forward? I don't know.
Ubisoft Forward. I got to say, we don't have to dwell on this, but if they really do pull out, we set a Far Cry in South or Central America, and it has to do with crime syndicates and drug cartels, just throw the whole company away at that point. I mean, fuck yourself. God, they already
did
Ghost Recon there, and it was terrible.
Yeah,
that
Cocaine Cowboys.
I mean, that game is good from a gameplay perspective. I liked Wildlands, but the story is like
the cocaine.
It's fucking garbage, and like the writing in it is so offensive.
They fixed that with they at least were like, okay, we're gonna do a fictional location.
That game has its own issues.
Sequel. It has its own issues
that are a little more nuanced.
They at least seem to like realize, okay, we fucked up there. I guess we did make the entire country of Bolivia upset with us. It was Bolivia, right?
I think so. I guess Bolivia. That's what I'm saying is hopefully they learned that lesson, and that's not
they upset this time. But they upset one of the few things bigger than themselves with a larger population than the company. So
that's all right, because that's not the only Ubisoft leak we had this week.
No.
There was also Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's the other thing. I didn't see this. I hear there's a stamina meter. Maybe it's Dark Souls now.
That could be cool. As someone who really likes Assassin's Creed, I feel like I don't give any shit about watching leaked footage. I mean, we know what that game is already, so.
Do we?
Yeah. Well,
is it Dark Souls now? Maybe it's Dark Souls now.
It's kind of been Dark Souls for a while. It's not fully there, but.
Yeah.
They fly now?
What were you going to say, Allyson?
Oh God, no! That reference Alex made just completely derailed me.
Wow! Yeah!
Sorry.
Wow! I didn't. That's not who I'd expect that from.
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin.
Anyways,
they fly now.
Oh God.
Okay. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's going to be an open world action adventure game. Yeah. You're going to climb some stuff. You're going to jump off stuff. You're going to kill some animals for their skin. You're going to harvest some stuff, and you're going to craft some things.
You're going to kill some British people for their skin.
It's probably going to be pretty fucking cool, and I'm excited to play it. But that's what it's going to be. All of those things
with Vikings.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't installed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Maybe I'll go back to it someday.
I got to finish getting through Origins. I'm not ready to uninstall it yet because I like it a lot. Those games are good. I just need
that hard drive space.
Yeah. I liked Assassin's Creed 2.
I like that too a lot. It's a good game.
I think what else Origins I like is better than 2, to be honest with you.
What else do you like, Andre?
Super hot.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Super hot.
Speaking of potential.
Super hot.
We'll see if
super hot.
I said Hades is probably the best roguelite ever. Hot. I'm just gonna keep talking, and and now maybe it'll get supplanted immediately by Superhot.
Superhot Mind Control Delete is out July 16th, this Thursday. It's been in early access for a few years, 3 years maybe.
Yeah, that was news to me.
I
me too. I liked the first one a lot, and I did not know that it was.
I would have totally been playing it in early access if I had known that.
I know.
I thought I was like a crazy person when you were talking about it. I was like, wait, no, this because you were when you mentioned the news, you're like, there's a new Superhot game. I'm like, it's like I woke up and I was like, yeah, right? This isn't.
I had no clue. It has never been served to me. This is an example of the failing of the Steam marketplace. It has never, ever, ever once been served to me in any form.
And I finished Superhot.
I have played Superhot through 3 times. Yeah. I love that game. So it is wild to me that Steam never went, you should try this. Or put it in a queue or something.
That, and also I never heard anybody talking about it.
Yeah.
Me neither. I don't know.
The
other cool thing about it is that if you bought the game on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, Epic Game Store, Origin, or GOG, you will be eligible for the free copy of this.
Which is awesome.
Like, if it doesn't count if you got it through a bundle, but
if you have it in the library.
I think if you have it in, if you got it through a bundle, maybe you get a discount.
That's kind of a weird, because I don't honestly remember how I got.
Neither do I, which is the thing.
Yeah, that's a little frustrating. It would be nice if it could if you could figure that out somehow.
Well, you were saying that you were going to buy Hades a second time, so
no, I mean I'll buy my
Mind Control Delete instead.
Fine. Yes, I will pay them money for it. I'd be happy to, but still,
happy to support those devs.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds cool. I love Superhot. It's just such a cool style with everything they do.
Yeah, sounds like they're maybe going to be moving away from Superhot as a thing now. Like they did, I think they mentioned the trilogy because they did Superhot VR, and now Mind Control Delete, and so maybe they're gonna move on to like a new thing now.
That's fine. They've been doing it for like 7 years, so
yeah. But
and it started as a game jam thing, so.
Okay, I searched Superhot in my email.
I'm doing that right now.
And I found a thing that says, thank you for your Steam purchase. So I did pay full price for Superhot in 2016 from them.
Okay, I don't think I paid full price, but I definitely paid $17 for it. So that should count.
Well, you know what? isn't super stylish. These new PlayStation 5 boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
white looks kind of is like jarring. I don't know.
They just look kind of chintzy to me, I guess. I don't know.
I added an editorialism in our show notes that says, "Who cares?"
Some people care a
who
lot.
will buy physical media. Yeah, there are people who care very much about the way things look on their shelves.
And
yeah, which is weird because like I do buy a decent amount of physical media, and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. I don't know.
Webcam flexing is more important than ever. It's got to look good on your shelf so that when you're in a Zoom call, people go, "Oh, look at that pretty game collection behind them."
Look at that 10-minute clip of Good Burger.
Yeah, I don't care, but I get that other people do. But also, I don't know.
It's a box.
Yeah.
It's a box. It's a box which holds a
black
thing that
and
goes in
white.
another box.
I will say I want physical PS5 games even less now because I think the boxes are ugly and I don't want to look at them. Which is not really the PS4 boxes. The greatest hits ones I think are pretty ugly, but the normal ones.
They look exactly the same to me, except they replaced the blue at the top with white. Like,
yep. And I think the white's ugly.
Yeah, I think the blue looks nice. The white is, I don't know, a little jarring.
Same with the red though. So I mean, it's already been a thing. But I also agree. I would not. That's the extent of my thoughts and emotion on it.
If they
just conveyed.
If they do sick alternate like cover art on all of the games, so you can just like reverse and be like, okay, here's the nice looking cover stuff. But
just get steel boxes
and get them all rusty in those humid, salty environments. And
salty environments like the Twitter discourse on PS5 boxes. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Well, saving us from the salt, taking us on a nice, refreshing journey is Drew Scanlon is wrapping up Cloth Map, which it's a little bittersweet. He's closing it out on his terms.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best way for it to happen.
Yeah. It sounds like COVID is kind of the main culprit here, but he is also choosing to like move on, but there's just not enough he could have like new stuff.
I thought he came out and said that he also has a position lined up and it started pretty quick.
Yes, it just sounds like it was a premeditated thing. It wasn't like, suddenly I am cutting this off because I don't have money. It's just things don't seem like they're going to be getting better anytime soon. So, but also
for a travel show.
It became, he was doing a lot of that by himself, and I imagine it was just an astronomical amount of work. But he also created some really fantastic and compelling documentaries about just interesting like the culture around games, whether that be like cultural traditional games or like video games or whatever, styles of play in different cultures. And so that'll be missed, but Drew is not leaving games, but right? Is that a thing? He's still in games.
Still in games.
Still in games. Yeah.
Not media.
No.
Based on the way that he was framing it, it sounded like it's an example of sort of what we were talking about earlier, where he probably won't be front facing. But I think he tempered that pretty well.
Yeah.
The way he talked about it. And I think, unfortunately, with something like NoClip had some bittersweet stuff this week because they had to wrap up their studio and move it out, which sucks because they had
just moved to like San Francisco and back to San Francisco,
which that was really sad. But Danny's also like, hey, we're not done, because they can still do stuff remotely. It's just they have to rethink how that works. Whereas unfortunately for Drew's kind of thing, I mean, I would have been happy to support Cloth Map forever, even if it was, hey, I'm going to do a flight simulator stream once a month because I love Drew and his content. But you can't really make a travel series right now, and you may not be able to make a travel series again ever, actually. So you just don't know.
But at least we have the puppies of Chernobyl.
Yeah, and speaking of what we were talking about earlier, if you love Drew Scanlon, you could always get into Formula One. I get to listen to him every week talk about speedy race cars
and watch him blink.
No, it's not a video podcast, unfortunately.
Oh, you can watch him blink
white
anywhere.
Yeah, if you don't know who Drew Scanlon is, blinking white guy.
Yeah,
the blinking white guy is shutting down his YouTube channel. Closing his Patreon. Cancel culture finally caught up with him.
God, that's such a funny way to put it. Blinking white guy shutting down his YouTube channel.
Got to put it in a way the youngsters can understand. That's gonna do it for news. Unless there's anything we're forgetting. I don't think so. There's a new Xbox app for the PC that seems much better than the old one. Cool. It seems to alleviate most of my problems with the Windows Store, which means I don't have to go into the Windows Store at any point. So that seems good. I found that out during the podcast. We'll be back next week with another episode. We'll talk about Ubisoft. There's probably some other. Oh, Devolver is happening today.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
There's a bunch of games coming out that I'm interested in this week.
Okay.
Like
what we got?
We got friggin' Paper Mario.
Yeah.
We got Before I Forget, which is one of the games that was in the iOX 2.
Which one was that? Oh, okay, never mind.
It was the one about dementia.
Right, okay.
There was a couple others that are coming out on the 16th that I'm blanking on right now, but
Ghost of Tsushima is coming out this week too.
Oh yes, right. That's the one.
Did you?
and My Control Delete is on July 16th as well.
Yes, So there's been like this story going around that's like Sucker Punch. It's Sucker Punch, right? That's who did Ghost of Tsushima. Yep. Sucker Punch talked with the estate of Akira Kurosawa to get his to get their blessing to use the black and white mode. Like, what?
I think it was more than that.
Yeah.
The way the story has been framed is like the black and white mode. We talked to the estate of Akira Kurosawa to get their blessing to use it.
I think I might, unless someone else is tied to it, I might actually come out of hiding and try to write a review for that game.
Go for it,
because I'm planning on playing it a lot next weekend. I'm very excited about it from a gameplay perspective, but I'm very fascinated to see how that story goes. I've heard from a couple of sources now that it's like these largely white and largely dudes at the studio sure did make a samurai movie. So it'll be interesting to see.
The Last Samurai?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like The Last Samurai, I think, is if all things being equal, from a Western understanding of movies being made, The Last Samurai is a pretty good movie. But it is also a very poor portrayal of feudal Japan and like not good culturally and appropriative, and maybe it wasn't the best thing for any of the white people involved, very famous white people involved, making it to make. So like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes with Ghost, I think.
Yeah. We'll see. Time will tell. I was talking to a teacher I work with who I sit next to, and he's like, "What? I have no idea about this game." And he plays like he's like level 400 in Monster Hunter. So
I think it was somebody from Vice. I don't know if it might have been Josh Rivera. So I apologize for not being able to remember who exactly was saying it. But someone I follow and really like their writing was saying like, "Hey, the Polygons and Kotakus and Vices and, IGNs of the world, you should probably use your freelance budget to make sure that you have a Japanese person reviewing this game." I hope that happens at some outlets, or at least a person of, who understands Japanese history and culture better than your average person.
Yeah, yeah, it's a complicated time too because it's like a invading army, and Japan has so much history with that. So
no, totally
interesting discourse around all that, I'm sure. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna close out this episode finally. Thanks for joining us, everybody. This has been episode 129 of the Gaming Fyx podcast on July 11th, 2020. I've been your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite insect reproductive process. I don't remember what I said. Something like that. Gobble gobble, motherfuckers. Alex, where can people find you? You can find me. Rewind. You can find Andre on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Alex, where can people find you?
Probably on the Trackmania.
Nice. Pat, how about you?
You can find me at PJC Plays and on the Giant Bomb Unofficial Classic Trackmania room.
Allison?
I'm on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
No Trackmania for you?
I'll probably give it a shot later this week.
Hell yeah.
All right.
The other good news is you should be able to run it on just about anything.
Oh, yeah.
Those games scale really well.
Google,
So everyone should play it.
Google gobble. One of us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Goodbye.
Mr. Turk.
Go to fix.space and subscribe to the podcast.
Review us on Podchaser.
Yeah,
Yeah,
podchaser.com/gamingfix. Twitter.com/fixpodcast.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Wait.
Nailed it.
Wait.
No.
Oh,
Wait.
Clap again.
I need to get to time.is. Well, I don't know how this works. I'm really sorry.
It's fine. As long as they're all relatively close to each other, I'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, like there's a couple. I think there might be like 30 seconds in between them.
It's fine. That's not much.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
but 40?
40? Perfect. Okay.
I
Thank
wasn't
you.
recording. Why did I even bother clapping? I already stopped my recording.
It is all
Nailed it. Solidarity. Bye-bye.